So today we are going to talk about real numbers and rules in algebra. So for module 1, we have 3 lessons. So kanang tulo ato lessons ani. We have the first lesson is all about classification of real numbers. So diri ato ni siya mabaluan ang different types of real numbers. It could be rational, irrational, natural, integer, non-integer, and etc. Then for lesson 2, since we already know the types of real numbers, so we are now kind of ready to plot these real numbers on a real number line. So for lesson 2, you'll be able to learn how to draw the number line. Okay, the number line, it is where you are going to put, or you are going to plot the real numbers. Then we are going to talk about inequalities. So what are those inequality signs? We have less than, greater than, less than or equal, greater than or equal, and then intervals. So when we say intervals, these are the range or boundaries of a certain kanang real number, groups of real numbers. And then we also have absolute values. So these are the magnitude of real numbers on a real number line. So and others also term this as the distance from two real numbers relative to each other. And then for the final lesson, we are going to talk about the algebraic expressions. So kanang class algebraic expression is the heart of algebra. Kaya nga naman, since kanang ang tanang problems or tanang concepts in mathematics always have this algebraic expression. So accompanied sila by algebraic expressions. Even the formulas in geometries, like for example, the volume of sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. So that one alone, the 4/3 pi r cubed, is already an algebraic expression that represents the volume of the sphere. And then we're going also to talk about the basic rules in algebra. So these rules, you should follow this in order to avoid errors and to have a good solution so that you can arrive the answer. So let's start with lesson 1. So na-follow ra class? Am I too fast or okay ra? Maklaro ra class? Okay, so thank you. So for lesson 1, of course, we're going to learn, or I will going to discuss to you about the classification of real numbers. So after this lesson, you'll be able to learn, of course, kanigid, you'll be able to know how to classify real numbers. So kung asa, like you are given a set of real numbers, so dagan siya, it could be 1, negative, blah blah blah, pi, Euler number, etc. And then after this lesson, you'll be able to sort them out. So yung sila isort kung asa sila na belong, nga kuan unsa sila nga klase sa real numbers. So yung ani. And then added knowledge, so you'll be able to learn also on how to approximate values of decimals. So why are we nganong nagkan man ta ani, nganong include man siya? So why approximation important? Since for example, if we're dealing with real numbers, especially irrational numbers nga nag-involve na siya o ganang 5 or more, or maybe 100 ka mga decimal places, so it would be very difficult to write it or to solve it. So therefore, we just need an approximate value. For example, if a certain variable contains a kanang double type, so sa kung sa na double type nga data contains a lot of decimals, so for example up to 10 decimals, so kana siya di na siya maigo sa Excel. For example, if you want to input it on Excel or you just manually calculate it, so it would be very better. So better na lang nga imo siya i-approximate maybe up to 2 decimal places or up to 3 decimal places. So it depends upon you, or it depends upon kanang sa required or ang requirement sa imong teacher baka ha, or instructor, or maybe in the near future your kanang imong chief. So nga siya. So there are several ways or methods on how to approximate those numbers. nag-contain siya a lot of decimals. So let's start with real numbers. So when we talk about real numbers, and by the word itself, these are actual numbers nga ma-quantify nimo. So it describes actual quantities. So what are these actual quantities? For example, we can describe number of COVID-19 patients. So as of now, siguro in the Philippines, 100,000 ata. So we can quantify it. 100,000 nga figure is a real number. And we can also quantify speed. So kan siya, speed of a vehicle. So please follow the cursor, kaning red nga button. So for speed, you can have 60 miles per hour. So the number 60 there that describes the magnitude of the speed of the vehicle. So real number gihapon na siya. And we can also quantify pi number. So asa din siya nagikan ning pi number. So where does it came from? So kanang siyang pi number is kanang mo na siya ang constant nga na-discover ni kanang Pythagoras. Kay during sa katong napriso ni siya, so kanang iyang gi-quantify ang ratio sa circumference sa circle and its diameter. So he come up with this number. Dagan siya mga values ng gipang input. So he come up with this constant nga pi number, but during his time, since dili man kaayo koan, limited ra ang number nga iyang nakuha. So that's why up to kuan ra kanang siguro 10 or 15 ka decimal places. But now, especially in China, I heard nga there is a Chinese kuan siguro to mathematician nga makakuan siya, maka-memorize siya verbally, iya to ma-recite ang pi number up to maybe 1,000 siguro nga decimal place, 1,000 siguro kutob. So I'm not sure, basta yung ano siya, so nagkanam kadako. So that's why this is an irrational number, part also of a real number. So we can quantify this one. And the next is the distance from moon to earth. So for example, in miles or kilometers or light years. So we can add numbers, for example, maybe 10,000 miles or more. So real number gihapon na siya. And then also output energy of a machine. So unsa man siya, it could be 5 horsepower, 4.0, 2.0 horsepower, so etc. So muna still a number nga that describes the magnitude of the power of a machine. And then of course, yeah, the height of your crush, you can quantify it maybe in inches or in centimeter. For example, 5'1" by a height, you have 153 centimeter. So this is part of a real number. So mana ang real number, and we have common examples of real numbers. So this is just a review in your high school class or in senior high na gihapon siya. So the first one right here, we have -10. So this is a real negative integer number. So specific it siya ang akong pag-state, negative nga integer. How about square root of 9? Of course, this is still a real number because we can use it in our daily lives. So especially in engineering applications. But since kaning square root of 9, others may think that this is an irrational number because of this radical sign, kaning square root. But if you simplify this one, so as what I have told you, numbers come in different form. So like sila, it could be in a fraction form, it could be in a logarithmic form, it could be in a radical form, such as this one. So meaning kanilang square root of 9 is also equal to 3. Class, is it kanang 3 lang ba, or there are still other values nga mo satisfy aning square root of 9? Is it 3 lang? Is it 3 alone? So what do you think, class? Is it 3 alone ang makasatisfy the square root of 9? Okay, so -3 as well. So di lang siya +3, -3 as well nga makasatisfy ani nga expression, which is square root of -9. So welcome to Mr. De La Cruz. So nag-start na ta, but don't worry, we are still on the first part about real numbers. So next we have 3 halves. So 3 halves, this is a fraction form. Okay, so thank you. let's continue ha sa discussion. So 3 halves, this is in fraction form. So if you want to convert it into a decimal form, so this is equal to 1.5, still a real number. And of course, we have -4, another example of a negative integer. And then we have a power of a number, so 10 cubed. This is also equal to 1000. So it would be better, class, if you are going to simplify those numbers in its purest form. For example, 10 cubed, it could be 1000, or it is 1000 yun. Kaning square root of 9, you can transform it into its purest form. So none siya do ka value as what I have told you earlier, katong -3 and +3. And then we also have this decimal form nga number, 0.6667. So it's a repeating but non-terminating. So non-terminating siya and repeating. So ako na siyang gi-round off. Actually, this is equivalent to 1/3. 1/3, I think 1/3 or 2/3. 2/3 day, 2/3. Kaning 0.6666. So gi-round off na lang mo na siyang nasa 7 sa iya last. So meron siyang 7 sa huli. And then we also have cube root of -64. So sir, hala, nasa negative. And then you will kanang imong ma-recall nga if ever there is a negative sign inside a radical expression, it could possibly kanang possible nga kuan siya irrational number. So do you think this is an irrational number, class? Kani siyang cube root of -64. Can we still simplify it into its purest form? What do you think, class? What is the equivalent of this? Oh. Okay, some say -8, others say -4. So yes, it's -4 because if you take the cube root of -4, so it will result into -64. Does it have any other values? Can we have a +4 for this one? Pwede ba ang +4 for this one? Yes or no? So no. So for cube root, we only have one value for this one. How about this square root of -1? So mo na siya. So when we say square root of -1, this is not a real number. Why? This is an imaginary. So nana siya sa imaginary nga side. On a real number line, horizontal siya. But in your higher math na siya, ang inyong imaginary line is pa-vertical siya. So maabot ra mo na during you will get there during your, I think, advanced math. So yeah, parang nasa advanced math na itong square root of -1. How about this square root of -9? What do you think, class? Is it -3 or 3? So for square root of -9, we can rewrite this into this form. So tama ba? Kani siya? So when we say square root of -9, we can break it down into -1 times 9. So for this part right here, so see my cursor, square root of 9 can be simplified. So this one can be extracted out. So if we're going to extract square root of 9, imo siya ipagawas. So we have either positive or -3. But this -1 right here inside is an imaginary number. Therefore, kanina siya, class, kanina siya nga itong expression na to, square root of -9, is not a real number. This is an imaginary number. The same true with this fourth root of -8. So we can rewrite this as the square root of the square root. So double square root na, because in a square root, you can apply, so the operation of a square root is the same true as the operation of exponent in if you are going to multiply variables. So i-add mo siya yung exponent. So the same true with the radical sign. So forma ni, so we have square root, which is 2, and another square root, which is 2. So all in all, it's 4. So for this one, we can break it down into -1 times 8. Of course, we can extract this 8 because 8 is a real number. But how about ang katabi niya na -1? So hindi to pwede. So ito ay part of the imaginary number. So therefore, this one below here, kani silang mga kuana, itong mga number na ito, it's not a real number. Only the numbers above are real numbers. So take note. Actually, in mathematics, we have these two numbers. So sila na talaga yung parang magkatunggali. Actually, this is not stated on the printed learning module, the imaginary numbers, because this concept here, itong imaginary number, will be discussed further in your higher mathematics, in advanced math. So now let's proceed to the types of real numbers. We have first the rational numbers. So when we say rational numbers, these are numbers that can be expressed as into two integers, p and q. Ang p is in the numerator, so itong p na to nasa numerator siya, and then q is the denominator. And then another restriction, q. So take note with this one, q must not be equal to 0. So why? Nga naman class, bakit hindi pwede maging 0 yung q? Of course, if you are going to divide any integers, so since integer man dapat integer yung numerator. So if you are going to divide an integer by 0, meaning the result would be undefined or infinity. So parang hindi mo alam kung ano ba talaga yung value, ano ba talaga yung number, since when you talk about infinity, it's not like a fixed value. Actually, infinity comes in different forms, so it's arbitrary. Hindi natin alam kung ano ba talaga yan. Hindi rin siya pwedeng tawagin na yung pinaka-highest na number. No, actually infinity is para siyang a mystery number. So we are uncertain kung what is the real value of the word infinity. That's why in other math books, they stated it as undefined. So that undefined for any numbers divided by 0. So take note, for irrational number, dapat ratio lang talaga siya sa dalawang integers. Take note with this. Integer lang ha. Kapag hindi na yan integer, kapag iba na yan, so magiging irrational na yan. Hindi na yan siya rational number. So take note. So examples of these numbers. So of course, we have 3 halves, because we know that the numerator 3 is a positive integer, and in the denominator 2 is a positive integer as well. The next one is 1/8. Of course, both the numerator and the denominator are positive numbers. And then next, we also have 1/3. So ratio siya ng dalawang integer. But sir, how about this one? So itong naiiba, 40. Hindi kasi to ratio ng P over Q Bakit included ba to sa rational number? So guess what? Ito kasi yun. 40, another equivalent or another form of this number is this one, 40 over 1. So this is in a fraction form. So parang state niya, parang persona niya. So therefore, in this form, we can say na ratio na siya sa dalawang integer. So what are these integers? We have 40 in the numerator and we have 1 in the denominator. So therefore, rational pala yung mga whole numbers kahit hindi sila naka-fraction form. So, kana nakasunod ra class? Okay ra, nasunod ra? Okay. So in irrational numbers, we have 2 types. So the first one is terminating decimal. Pag sinasabing terminating, meaning there is a limit, there is a boundary. So for a rational number, example for 1/4, of course, if we're going to convert it into decimal form, so it will only end in up to hundredths digit. So we have 0.25. So nagta-terminate lang siya. So ito yung examples ng terminating rational number. The other one is 9/2, because if we simplify 9/2, we will get a value of 4.50 or 4.5. So ginagawa ko lang tong 4.50. It's up to you, but actually when you add 0 on the last digit, it determines the precision of your number. Kasi pwede naman tong isulat mo na 4.5 lang hanggang 10th digit lang. So kapag may 0 ka na ina-add, meaning the precision of your number is up to hundredths digit. So ganyan yan. But it's up to you and it depends upon the problem put sa mathematical problem. So next, of course, as what I have told you, for whole numbers, still a rational number, a ratio of two integers. So we can rewrite this 4 over 1 into simply 4.00. Then, the other type of a rational number are non-terminating and repeating decimal. So meaning, wala siya limit, meaning infinite. Infinite ang infinite yung decimal number niya. But this one, it's okay. Kay for example, no, 'di ba? Kapag makaabot na tayo sa definition ng irrational number, actually ang irrational number, isang criteria agad na makikita mo is non-terminating. But thanks ta ani kasi ang repeating kanang decimal na phrase, it's because this makes this non-terminating fractions into irrational number. Since nagre-repeat man ito, so meron siyang pattern. In short, meron siyang pattern. For example, 1/3 is equal to 0.3333, meaning the digit 3 is repeated infinitely. So nagre-repeat siya infinitely. Another example, we have 125 over 111. So this is equal to 1.126, 126, 126. Therefore, the repeating digits are 1, 2, and 6. So nagre-repeat tong tatlong to. And then the other example, we have 31 over 9, which is equal to 3.444. So nagre-repeat yung isang digit, which is equal to 4. For this case, or for this type of number, this type of rational number, we can also write this kay di ba? Parang feel nimo nga murag, sir, taas ra jud kayo, sir. Yes, taas na siya because it's repeating and it repeats infinitely. So we can rewrite this shortly in this notation. So take note with this one. So you can rewrite pala sa 3.44 into just 3.4, but don't forget the bar. Because if you forget this bar, kaya importante gani siya in this type, so it would be a terminating decimal, 3.4 lang. So dapat lagyan mo ng bar. Meaning kasi niyan, kapag nilagay mo ng bar, so meaning this digit here, the 4, will be repeated infinitely. So 3.44. So for this 1/3 pala, yung 0.333, we can rewrite this shortly, so which is equal to 0.3 bar. So for this, we can write the 125 over 111 into just 1.126 bar. So that's a bar from 1 hanggang 6. So ganun lang. So I will share to you kung paano mag-convert, on how we are going to convert non-terminating and repeating decimal into a fraction. So diba dito, yung example ko dito is from fraction to repeating decimal. So paano kung i-convert natin pabalik from decimal to fraction? So I will share to you. So ganito yan. For the case of 125 over 111, so we have this short niyang annotation. So ito yung short niya na annotation, 1.126 bar. So yung kailangan mo lang gawin, of course, i-split mo muna since we have a whole number here. So we have 1 plus 0.126 bar. So kailangan mo talaga kunin yung mga whole number. So i-separate mo muna yung mga whole number. Since sa case na ito, we have the whole number. Next, ito na yung pinaka-importante na part. We say that the equivalent of 0.126, yung inuulit, 126 is just equal to 126. So isulat mo lang yung digit na nag-uulit since the repeating digit is 126. So you just write it on the numerator, 126 divided by this 999. So the number of 999 depends upon the number of digits nga nag-repeat. For example, if only one digit ang nag-repeat, so just write only single 9. For example, only 3 digit is kanang repeating, so write 3 over 9. If it is 4 digits na, let's say 3745, so you need to write 3745, so you need to write 3745 over 9,999. So parang ganun lang. Ito yung pinaka center na part, ito yung pinaka importante na part para sa pag-convert ng decimal into fraction. So given that we already know this one, so we can also say that this one right here, we can also convert it into fraction. So para mas madali siya ma-combine dito sa 999, of course, we can use this, the denominator 999. So we can have 999 over 999. So this is still equal to 1. So walang nagbabago. Why do we need to do this? Of course, para ma-simplify agad natin kasi 'di ba kapag if you have a fraction that has the same denominator, so we can directly simplify that one. We can directly add its numerator and then copy its denominator, right? So parang ganun lang. So after this, since you already know this, and then we convert 1 into a fraction form, so you can now directly add. So add 999 plus 126. So you will get this number, 1125 over 999. But we're still far from our answer. So what are we going to do? Of course, remember that in simplifying numbers, you will need to know whether there is a common factor sa kanila. So for 125, we can simplify it into a factor of 9 and 125. How about 999? Of course, this is also a factor of 9 and 111. So therefore, yung common pala nila sa numerator and the denominator is the number 9. So that's why we can cancel this out. Cancel mo yung 9, cancel mo yung sa baba. So we can now have a final answer of 125 over 111. So let's have another example para masabtan din ninyo, for you to be able to learn. So let's say we have this 0.666666. So this is still repeating infinitely. So we just write this bar sa top niya. So for this, since isa lang, so isa lang na digit, we only have 6. Therefore, yung isusulat lang natin na 9 sa denominator niya is just 1. Since isa lang siya, isa lang yung nag-repeat. So we can write this as 6 over 9. Then as what I have told you, always guys, class, always simplify your number. So we need to find factors for this one. So for the factor of 6, we have 3 and 2. For the factor of 9, we have 3 and 3. So therefore, they have a common number, 3. So we can cancel this out. So mostly good sa inyong na siguro sa lahat ng mga naririnig nyo sa mga instructor nyo, why cancel? Bakit cancel ang cancel? Ano bang, like saan ba yan na-include yung cancel na yan? Bakit wala yan sa mga fundamentals or fundamental operation of mathematics? Actually, when we talk about cancel, bakit accepted yung cancel is that this is just another term for division. Of course, if you're going to manipulate this one, this common here, 3 and 3, so 3 divided by 3, of course, 1. So parang sino-shortcut lang nila. So they just say cancel lang. So parang cancel na 3. So ganun. So the final answer pala is 2/3. Meaning, this 0.6666 is equal to 2/3. And 2/3 is a rational number. So ganyan pag-convert ng repeating, non-terminating, and non-repeating decimal into a fraction. So class, nakuha ba? Okay. So another pa jud. So meron pa tayo ditong last na example. How about 0.74? So we have 2 digits na. So dalawang digit na yung nagre-repeat. We have 7 and 4. So therefore, yung denominator natin na 9, dalawa na rin. So this one is equal to 74 over 99. So di ba yung sinabi ko, you need to simplify this. Okay, let's find a factor for 74. Yung factor lang natin dito is just 2 times 37 lang. So 2 times 37. And then for 99, we only have 3 times 11. So parang wala silang common kasi 2 and 37 and 3 9 times 11. So wala. So therefore, this one right here is already a in its simplest form. So hindi na to siya pwede ma-simplify kasi ito na talaga. Like ito na talaga yung pinaka purest niya na form as a fraction. So next, let's jump up to the irrational numbers. So when we talk about irrational numbers, this is opposite of the rational number, meaning we cannot express this as a is a ratio of two integers. So hindi siya pwede, like yung numerator niya baka hindi integer, baka iba, maybe non-terminating na decimal, so parang ganun, or maybe it involves or it contains a square root of a certain number in which its answer may be non-repeating, so ganun, or I mean non-terminating pala, so ganun siya. Or in other words, ito palang irrational number is infinitely non-repeating decimal, meaning hindi siya ulit-ulit, wala siyang pattern class. Like for example, you have the common irrational number pi, so hindi yan siya magre-repeat, wala talagang pattern yung 3.1451516 blah blah blah, so walang katapusan. So yan yung irrational number. And another common example of irrational numbers, these are square root of 2 over 4. So if you are going to simplify this one, so kapag isi-simplify mo to, if meron kayong calculator dyan na nasa kamay nyo, so you can do this. So you can operate this one and it will result to an irrational number. So it will result into a non-terminating, walang pattern na decimal. So it is equal to 0.3535533960. Although you'll notice that on the first part, it has a pattern. Sir, nagre-repeat pala yung 3535. Pero take note guys, take note class. Sa huli kasi wala ng pattern eh. So therefore, itong number pala is an irrational number. So try again this square root of 11. So if you're going to input this one on a calculator, it would still result on a non-terminating, wala siyang pattern na decimal number. So therefore, irrational din to. How about this? Are you familiar with logarithm? So this one is a common logarithm. When we say common logarithm, its base is 10. So meron pala tong base na 10. This applies to exponential function. So don't worry guys, if you don't know this, don't worry, it will be discussed on the later modules. I think module 5 or 6. So parang kuan. So murag dol-dol ni ana. So for log of 2, if you're going to input this in your calculator, it will result to a non-terminating nga decimal. So we have 0.301029. So hanggang ano yan? Hindi natin alam kung hanggang saan aabot. Kasi infinity. Then, saan aabot ang 20 pesos? So for this one, of course, common to eh. This is the common example of irrational number. So what do you call this number? This is from Pythagoras, the pi number. So irrational to. And then kung ma-meet nyo to, yung E, yung sinasabi ko sa inyo during orientation, so E is equal to 2.718281. So non-terminating to. So this is called a Euler number, and Euler number is an example of an irrational number. And then we also have this trigonometric identity. So for trigonometric number, so diba I have told you a while ago that numbers come in different forms. So we also have sine of a number. For example, sine 4 degrees. So itong number pala, yung pinaka purest form pala, if you simplify this one, or if you are going to input it in your calculator, it will result with this non-terminating decimal, which is equal to 0.069756. So walang katapusan. So therefore, for trigonometric functions pala, yung iba is irrational. Pero I didn't say na lahat ng mga numbers under trigonometric identities are irrational. No, because you have this sign of 0 degrees. So, di ba? Meron din tayong cosine of 0 degrees, which is equal to 1, which is a rational number. So, hindi lahat. Meron lang ibang mga numbers na if you're going to take its trigonometric identity, it will result to irrational number. So, my question is, class, do you think the acceleration due to gravity, if you are familiar with this one, this constant term, acceleration due to gravity, which is equal to 9.8065 something, so etc. Medyo mahaba yung decimal places niya. So, do you think it is an irrational number, class? Are you familiar with that one in your physics subjects? Do you think acceleration due to gravity is an irrational number? What do you think, class? Do you have any idea? How about the others? Is it an irrational number? Do you think the acceleration due to gravity g, which is equal to 9.806 blah blah blah, so kan siya, moral siya, medyo non-terminating siya, do you think it is an irrational number? So others says or mostly sa inyo nagsasabi na this is an irrational number. But actually, based on some literatures, the acceleration due to gravity is not actually an irrational number. So ano bang tawag niya? Since this is kanang part of the physics subject, so meaning it quantifies a certain kanang physical parang physical dimension siya, because it describes the acceleration of a moving object relative to the earth. So meaning yung niya, yung parang result niya, 'di ba? Medyo marami siyang points. So bakit ganun? Because it depends upon the approximation sa, for example, sa other quantities. For example, yung radius ng Earth. So, yung pag-calculate sa radius ng Earth still depends upon the available data, the instrument used. So, if an instrument has only a limited accuracy, so therefore up to ganun lang siya. And then once they already apply calculations and computation with this acceleration due to gravity, because this is dependent on other variables such as the gravitational field constant g, the radius of the earth and the pull. So therefore, yung value pala niya is not a ratio, unlike pi. So nagdedepende pala siya. So kapag accurate yung mga kapag accurate yung mga variables kung saan siya nag-defend, so therefore we can arrive an exact value for this g. But for now, for the time being, since limited lang lahat, and then it is also a physical siya. This is a physical kanang dimension yung g. So therefore hindi ito matatawag na irrational number. This is a this is a constant number that describe a physical thing. So take note, class, ha, kapag if during the quiz, if you're given some if you're given some numbers that is kanang related to physical phenomena or in physics, so it is not an irrational number at all because meron na siyang dimension. So kasi nagdedepende yung g sa value ng distance mo, because g is in meter per second square. So magdedepende din siya sa time. Therefore marami siyang marami siyang relationship sa ibang constant din. So it's not actually an irrational number. So nakuha ra, class? Nagets ra, class? Okay. Ansa? Chucho kanto. Sa physics. Okay, I think nag because kanang kuan it describes a physical phenomena and then it depends upon other constant pod. 'Di ba sa G na to it's a function of a distance and time. 'Di ba ang atong G is in meter per second square. And then also its value depends upon the availability of the instrument or the kuan pod yung precision ng instrument natin. So limited ra siya and then also sa ano din sa ibang variables na nagdidepend yung G kasi yung G is came from the gravitational field constant and also sa radius ng Earth. So meaning kung rational number or kung accurate yung value ng G or yung radius ng Earth, so magiging accurate din yung ating G. But sadly, dahil hindi precise yung instruments na ginagamit, so therefore we come up with this value of G right now nga which is equal to 9.806 blah blah blah. So para siyang irrational, but actually this is not an irrational number because it describes a certain physical phenomenon. So nagets ra? Okay na to? Okay, so if you meet something that describes a physical phenomena, so therefore it's not an irrational number. So it's a different class of number since it has already a unit that nga nakakuan sa iyaha, nakatapad or nakakonect. So therefore that is not an irrational number. So let's proceed with natural numbers. So when we talk about natural numbers, these are limited only to all positive integer numbers from 1 to infinity. So nagsa-start siya ng 1. So such as this one, this is a set of natural numbers from 1, 2, 3, 4, 100, 200 hanggang positive infinity. So my question is 0 a natural number? What do you think, class? Yung 0 ba, included ba talaga yan sa natural number? Okay, yung iba, okay, may nagsasabi na, yeah, it's a whole number. Yung iba, dili. Yung iba, yes. Then, another thing, then, are fractions natural number? So natural number ba yung mga fractions natin? So, depende. Actually, for the first part, is 0 a natural number? All I can say is maybe. So maybe lang because I've read several literatures. In other fields kasi, so in our field it's more on kanang mathematical applications in the world of mathematics. In other field kasi they have this set theory. So meron siyang set theory. So it discuss kanang deeply on the kanang concepts behind sets, 'di ba? If you are familiar with sets, we have set of all real numbers or kanang elements. Then in set pod they discuss about the union of two sets, the intersection of two sets. So ibang field din yan. And then also in the field of computer science, they have these binary digits, ones and zeros, that will indicate whether it is true or false. So it is also capable of storing data. So meaning sa kanilang field, they adopt 0 as a natural number. So take note, class, nag-adapt sila. So wala tayong maano niyan, hindi natin madidebate kasi sa field nila yun. Parang 'di ba, meron tayong specific sa bawat field natin. So in our field, we are employing the common mathematical nga mga rules and mga expressions. So therefore, wala gi-include, hindi natin ini-include yung 0 sa natural number. So for my opinion, maybe lang muna kasi there are other fields kasi na ini-include nila. But for the second question, are fractions natural number? Of course, this is not a natural number. Bakit? Of course, limited ra. Diba we have restriction for natural numbers. Only positive integer numbers. So take note with this one, class. Positive lang ha. Hindi pwede na negative. Hindi rin pwede non-integer. So integer lang talaga. When we say integer, these are whole numbers. So are we clear? Okay na, class? Okay. So next we have whole numbers. So for whole numbers, these are set of natural numbers. So mga natural numbers siya, including na sa zero. So I think I have heard nga na merong nag-answer kanina ng 0, which na yung 0 pala is a whole number. So yes, it is a part of a whole number. So starting from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. How about this? So hala sir, bakit mo nilagay yung square root of 25? Do you think this one is a whole number? Class? Do you think square root of 25 is... Yes. Okay, this is irrational number since whole numbers is part of irrational number, but we are specific only to whole numbers. Do you think square root of 25 is a whole number? Because this is already a rational number, class, kay since we are rational number mangyagihapon siya. So is it a whole number, class? Can we consider square root of 25 as a whole number? Nagingan nga because of its purest value. Actually, if you are going to include this as a whole number, you should have some considerations, or you are going to initialize or declare something, because when we simplify this into its purest form, the square root of 25, you can have two possible values, diba? Kapag square root, diba, dalawa yung value natin, o okay, negative 5 and positive 5. So therefore, we only consider whole numbers for the for its first value, which is the positive 5, because the negative 5 hindi na yan, kasi hindi na yan whole number, it is already an integer. So integer only, not a whole number. So for this one, that's why I write it para ma-emphasize ninyo, because maybe during your exam you will meet this expression. Kasi mataranta mo, inyo din ibutang sa ambot, mabasin siguro irrational ni kina may square root. So ayaw mo kakuan class, like think deeper, then imo siya i-anticipate what would happen if I do this, I do that, what if I will simplify it into its purest form. So mga ganun ba, meron tayong options sa math kasi ang dami mong options na kaya mong gawin para makuha mo yung answer. So you have different ways. For me, only the positive 5 can be considered as a whole number. So, kapag mag-answer ka nito, you will write square root of 25 only for 5, itong positive 5 na value. So, ganun, hindi pwede yung negative 5. And then, hanggang infinity. So, ito yung whole number natin, including 0 ha, natural numbers and 0. So, question, are fractions whole number? Of course. Since we already know that in the natural number, fractions are not included, so therefore, sa whole numbers din, hindi rin included. Since yung whole number is nagko-contain ng natural numbers, which are without fractions, so therefore, sa whole numbers din, wala din siyang fractions. So it's a no for me. So wala talaga. So next, we have integers. So when we talk about integers, these are whole numbers in a positive and negative form. Is it included ba yung origin natin, yung 0? Included ba yan sa integer? Class, is it included? Okay, yes, it is included since we already state that these are whole numbers. Positive lang, tsaka negative. So, di ba yung whole number is only limited to those elements that starts from 0 to positive infinity. But for integers na, kino-considered na niya yung mga numbers below 0 hanggang negative infinity. So these are integers. Take note class, yung integers, wala yung wala yung fractions, wala yung decimal points. Only whole numbers in positive and negative side of the real number. So we have non-integer. So ito yung sinasabi ko ng mga fractions. So these are non-whole numbers. So take note ha, non-whole numbers ranging from positive to negative. So these are comprised mostly of fractions. So kapag nakakita ka ng fraction, so most of the time it would automatically be classified as non-integer. So hindi lahat ha, I don't say tanan. Like all the time you'd say na i-classify natin as non-integer, because take note, maybe there are some questions in your exam. For example, I can write fraction into 4 over 2. So I have a fraction 4 over 2. Do you think that is a non-integer fraction, class? Kana siyang 4 over 2? Is it a non-integer fraction or a whole number? So what do you think? Yung 4 over 2? So it's still a whole number. So that's why so that's why I told you na not all fractions are non-integer. So you need to simplify it talaga, as what I have told you again and again and again, because that is important. So but anyways, fraction din siya and decimal points, whether whether it is positive or negative. So yan yung non-integer. Ito yung parang criteria nyo. Mostly fractions and decimal points. So to summarize everything, so di ba meron nagsasabi sa mga in the previous slides that, sir, I think that one is rational, but it could also be an integer. So sir, parang ang dami pala no, ang dami palang niya, parang ang daming paraan para ma-sort yan, yung isang number. Of course, madami. Kanang bakit? Because yung types natin sa real number is hierarchical, meaning meron siyang levels, sub-levels, hanggang sa dun talaga sa pinakataas. So that's why we can summarize those classifications into this one. So let's start with irrational. Sa irrational, wala siyang sub-hierarchy, meaning nag-iisa lang siya. So wala siyang mga sub-levels, wala siyang mga minions, nag-iisa lang, irrational. So di ba yung sinasabi ko, irrational cannot be expressed as a ratio of two integers. And it also comes into infinitely non-terminating na decimals. And then the opposite of irrational, of course, this is the famous one that we all know, the rational numbers, that can be expressed as a ratio of two integers, p over q, but take note, q must not be equal to 0. And then the sub-level for rational, we can break it down into non-integer and integers. So sa mga non-integer, this involves fractions and decimal points. For the integer part, so yung yung included ng integer are those yung mga positive and negative whole numbers. So therefore, yung whole number pala is parte ng integer. So the first one is the negative, yung mga numbers nasa on the left side of the number line. And of course, we have the whole numbers, which are numbers located greater than 0, or mga positive na numbers. And then for whole numbers, of course, we have the 0. And then for the last one, we have natural numbers. So I have a question. How about counting numbers? So I think you already meet this word, kanin siyang counting numbers. Asa man siya, class, ang kaning counting numbers? What do you think? Saan ba to ilagay? Or ano bang ibang term ng counting numbers? Okay, so yeah, tama. Yung counting numbers can be named as a natural number, or other term niya is the natural number, because when you say counting numbers, so parang siya, obvious or common sense na yung mga numbers na makakount mo, pwede mo makount since yung mga daliri mo kaya kanang may mga kanang kamot or galamay nga 1/2 lang, so whole gina siya nga 1 2 3 4 5 then wala po kay kuan di po ka makaingon nga okay 0 ni siya di ba dili maihap sa imo fingers ng 0. So therefore counting numbers pala is another term for natural numbers. So natural numbers siya. So let's try. Let's have an exercise on how to sort real numbers. So for our first example, we need to determine which numbers in the sets are rational, irrational, natural, whole, integer, and non-integer. So we are given with this set of numbers from negative pi, negative 1/3, 6/3, 1/2, square root of 3, negative 7.5, we have negative 1, 8, and finally we have negative 22. So for rational numbers, so dapat yung technique mo dito is isa-isahin mo talaga. Huwag mo yung class, hindi mo pwede na okay, parang uy, okay to tapos dun ka naman, then dun ka naman sa ibang parte, dito ka naman sa gilid, sa middle, ganun. So dapat isa-isahin mo. For example, negative pi, is it a rational number? Nope, that is an irrational number. How about negative 1/3? Negative 1/3, of course, this is a ratio of two integers, 1 and 3, only negative side. So it's still part of a rational number since non-negative numbers are part of rational numbers based on what I have shown to you on its katong summary na niya. So therefore, the set of rational numbers for this given example are this one. So yung 6/3, of course, this is irrational number since this is a ratio of the positive number 6 and 3. How about 1/2? Of course, class, this is irrational number. Ratio pa din siya ng 1 and 2 which are both positive numbers. How about square root of 3? Now, if you're going to plug it into your calculator, so yung resulta niya is non-terminating na decimal. So therefore, hindi siya pwede ma-express as a ratio of two integers, two integers pala. So that's why class, hindi natin to pwede isali sa sets of rational numbers. How about negative 7.5? Of course, we can convert it into a fraction form, which is equal to 7 and 1/2. And then, if you're going to convert it into an improper fraction, so it will now be a ratio of two integers. So therefore, negative 7.5 is a rational number. How about negative 1? Of course, this is a rational number, specifically an integer. So negative siya nga integer. How about 8? Of course, this is a positive integer, a part of a rational number. And then finally, for our negative 22, this is of course a negative integer which is part of a rational number. So nagets ra class? Are you still following me? Okay. So for irrational numbers, so as what I have told you, yung parang iniisa-isa natin. So I think we only have two elements which are negative pi and square root of 3. The rest kasi is pwede mo silang ma-express as a ratio of two integers. So ito lang talaga, negative pi and square root of 3. So for our natural numbers, these are subsets of our rational number. So para hindi ka na mahirapan, so pwede ka na dito ka na lang magbabase sa answer mo dito sa set of rational numbers. So for the natural numbers, we only have two. So class, take note. Uy sir, bakit included to yung 6/3? Of course, we can simplify this one into 2 because 6 divided by 3 is 2. So therefore, it is a natural number. How about negative 1? Ay, hindi siya pwede. Bakit? Kasi negative 2 So integer na to. A negative integer. How about 8? Of course, 8 lang talaga. For negative 22, hindi rin pwede kasi negative siya. So therefore, we only have two elements for our natural numbers. How about whole numbers? So it would be easier for you if you already have an answer for your natural numbers since whole number is a collection of both natural numbers and zero. So therefore, Sa whole number natin, so wala siya dahil, nakalimutan. So yung whole number pala natin is 6 over 3 and 8. So dalawa lang, same sa natural number. So let's jump na lang sa integer numbers. So for the integer numbers, these are whole numbers either in positive or negative form. So in this example, we only have negative 1. Hindi din pwede class yung negative 7.5 since it contains decimal. We have 6 over 3, which is equal to 2. We have 8. So this is a positive integer. And we also have negative 22, which is a negative integer. So ito yung elements ng ating set of integer numbers. Then next, the last part for the non-integer numbers. So we only have negative 1/3, 1/2. So these are mostly fractions and decimal in nature. So negative 7.5 yung last. So naapas ra class? Nasabtan ra nga part? Okay. So let's proceed to, okay, naradi ay naulhira. Nauli og transition. So sa whole numbers, duha, 6 over 3 and 8. So let's proceed to question number 2. Still the same, but we are given with a different set of real numbers. So for the rational numbers, of course, yung nangunguna, yung 25, is a rational number. We can write this into a 25 over 1. How about negative 17? Of course, this is a negative integer, which is part of a rational number. How about negative 12 over 5? Of course, because this is a ratio of two integers. Yung isa is positive, yung isa is negative. How about square root of 9? Of course, square root of 9 has two values, positive 3 and negative 3, which is still part of a rational number. How about 3.12? Of course, rational number siya kasi terminating siya na decimal. Hanggang ano lang siya, hundredths place. 3.12. How about pi over 2 or 1/2 of pi? Oy, class. Hindi na to pwede maging rational. Kahit may 1/2 pa to siya, kahit meron pa tong expression pa kunwari expression ng two integers, but meron kasi siyang katabi na pi, so therefore it's not a rational number. How about 7? Of course, it is a whole number, so part of a rational number. The same with negative 11.1 and 13, still rational numbers. So how about irrational numbers? So I already discussed it to you. We only have one element, which is 1/2 of pi. So ito lang yung irrational number dito sa ating set of real numbers. How about natural numbers? Yung nangunguna, you can base it directly to the elements that you can found in this set of rational numbers. So pwede ka na dito magbabase, hindi ka na dito kasi sa rational numbers parang kinukuha na yung irrational number. So for our natural numbers, we have 25. Of course, natural to. Kasi positive, positive integer and also a whole number. Negative 17, hindi kasi negative siya. Ito, 12 over 5 is a fraction, hindi pwede. I included square root of 9 since imo siya lagyan mo siya ng note class lagyan mo siya ng note kasi di ba yung sinasabi ko a while ago that you should simplify this. So this will have a two value. So dalawang value niya, positive 3 and negative 3. So we only consider natural numbers for the positive 3. So ilagay mo only for positive 3 and not the negative 3. Kasi yung negative 3 pala, yung negative counterpart niya is not already a natural number anymore, but an integer, a negative integer number. So next we have 7, of course a whole number, and finally we have 13. We don't negative 11.1 is not included since it is in a decimal form. So decimal siya, hindi na siya whole number. Next, the whole numbers. So we can base this on our answers on the natural numbers since whole numbers and natural numbers are parang closely related kasi 'di ba yung kulang lang nila is 0. Wala kasing 0 si natural. So for whole numbers, we have 25, next square root of 9 only for positive 3. Then 7 and finally is 13. Then for integer numbers, so these are whole numbers either positive or negative and including 0. So based on our kanang given nga real numbers. So we have 25, negative 17, square root of 9. But in this case, pwede ka na hindi mag-note nito na, sir, only for positive 3. Kasi yung negative 3 din is also an integer, a negative integer. So therefore, lahat na, all values na para sa square root of 9. So don't need to, don't need to put a note. The next, 7, of course, a positive integer, and also 13, a positive integer. How about for non-integer numbers? So these are mostly those numbers that are in fraction form or in decimal form. So we have negative 12 over 5, which is in a fraction form. We have 3.12, a terminating decimal, and then we also have negative 11.2, which is also a terminating decimal, non-integer. So nagets ra class? Nagets ra? Wala bay naghang, wala bay nag-freeze ra. Okay, thank you. So I have a question for you about real numbers. So the first one is, real numbers are the combination of all positive and negative integers including 0. Is it a true statement or a false statement? What do you think, class? Kaning real numbers are the combination of all positive and negative integers including 0. Is it true or false? False. Yung iba, true. True, false, true, false. So actually, yung answer niya dito is false. Yes, correct yung hinga ng false. Why? Because real numbers, specific tayo sa ating definition ha, real numbers are not only a combination of all positive and negative integers. Because yung real numbers din includes irrational numbers and mga non-negative. So hindi lang siya hindi siya limited sa explanation na to or sa statement na to. So therefore this statement is false. Kasi yung real numbers siya pangkalahatan, like very general siya na term. So therefore it's not limited only for this single na statement. So next, set of number or maybe numbers that can be found in the set of whole numbers. So makikita natin sa whole numbers, but we cannot find it but we cannot also find it on natural numbers. So ano ba 'yun? So 0. Ganun true. Di mo siya true or false. Actually okay, true na 0. Okay, 0 or 0 number. So yeah, kasi yung 0, hindi natin to makikita sa natural numbers, sa set of natural numbers. We can only see it on the set of whole numbers. So I think I already discussed this on the previous slides. Next, last, if you are going to add two irrational numbers, do you think the result is a rational number? Is it true or false? Saman? Saman? In most cases or in some cases? So in some cases, we can say this as a false, because for example, if you add pi plus pi, or pi plus 3 pi, still 4 pi, meron pa rin siyang pi, so wala tayong magagawa, still irrational number pa din. And also with this one, for addition, like if we are going to add square root of 2 plus square root of 2 is equals to 2 square root of 2, still an irrational number. So I've just said to you in some cases. So bakit hindi natin masasabi na in all cases? Kasi meron kasing mga other forms of number. For example, we have square root of 2. If we are going to multiply square root of 2 by itself, so we can now have square root of 4, which is, if we further simplify this one, it will now be a rational number, which is positive 2 and negative 2. So therefore, magiging true na yung statement. But since hindi lahat, so not all, that's why we just call this statement as a false statement, kasi hindi siya masatisfy sa lahat. only on some cases. So therefore, false pa rin to. Take note with that, class ha, kasi baka mag-add kayo ng mga irrational numbers tapos gawin yung rational. So magkamanila talaga kayo. Kasi not all. So sana all, hindi lahat. So, ganun. So we already through with the classification of real numbers. So let's proceed to the decimal approximation. So we only have 2. So I think this is just a review on your elementary siguro na siya. So we only have 2. We are going to round off decimals or we are going to truncate it. So yung truncate pala is para mong siyang like hinahati, like dyan lang, hanggang dyan lang. The rest, hindi nakasali. So parang ganun. So for a review of your kanang koan sa inyong elementary, let's say we have this pi. So by the way pala class, for the information of everybody, this is very important kaning decimal approximation because 'di ba, as what I've told you, yung parang kapag magsusulat na kayo ng ng book o di kayo yung thesis, or if you're going to input or encode it something, or maybe you are going to manually solve a certain problem. So kapag sinulat mo talaga yung entire pi na, it would be very difficult for you. Like it will take you a lot of time to solve the problem. So that's why let's just round it off. So for this one, we round off up to 4 decimal places. So hanggang first, second, third, fourth. So hanggang 5 lang. So in rounding off, we will note the 5 or yung 4, yung ika-fourth as the final digit. And then we're going to look at its next digit. So we label it as in next digit. So ganito ka magra-round off. So it's just a review na lang sa elementary days ninyo. So we have a condition. So kapag yung next digit is 5 or more, so we add the final digit. So for example, our next digit is 9 there. So therefore, yung 5 pala doon, yung last digit natin na 5, magiging 6 na siya. However, kapag yung next digit mo is 4 or less, so leave the final digit as it is. For example, what if yung 9 dito magiging 3? So 5 lang to, hindi to siya madagdagan. So ganun lang yung parang rule ng rounding. So this one pala is just approximately equal to 3.1416. So naging 6 na siya since yung next digit mo is more than 5. So for the next one, truncating decimals, actually this is easy. Like easy kasi wala tong condition. Alam niyo kung bakit? When you're going to truncate pala, parang i-break mo lang, like hanggang dyan lang. For example, if we are going to approximate this up to 3 decimal places, so hanggang first, second, third, hanggang dito lang. So follow my cursor, follow the red button. So hanggang dito lang na place. So this one pala, so all the numbers after this digit 1 will be excluded na. So hindi na siya kasali. So let's just put it in this way. So 3.141 hanggang dyan lang. The rest wala na. Hindi mo na siya i-add, hindi mo na siya bawasan. As is lang talaga, like you just break this one apart. Then you ignore all the values right after the last digit. So ganito lang mag-approximate ng decimal using this truncating method. So this is just approximately equal to 3.141. So ganun lang. So if we are going to compare these two, so we have this example. So we need to approximate these numbers. Ito, yung apat na numbers na ito with its kanang koan, ilang respective nga mga forms. So we need to approximate this using those two methods, and let's try to compare. So for the first one, so up to 2 decimal places lang ha. So for rounding off, we have a final digit of 7, and then its next digit is 8. So 8 to, meaning 8 is greater than 5. So we add 1 to our final digit. So the resulting approximation is 10.58. How about for truncating? Of course, like you just ignore na lang, i-break na lang. So hanggang 7 lang talaga. So i-break mo, i-ignore mo yung naka-follow niya. So we have 10.57. As you have noticed, nag-iiba siya. Nag-iiba yung truncating surrounding. Why? Because in rounding, you have a condition na kapag mag-greater na ng 5, dagdagan mo. Whereas sa truncating, at as is lang talaga. Like, just ignore those numbers after the final digit. Another example, we have this 9.806634. So we have a final digit of 0. Our next digit is still greater than 5 since 6 man ito. So we add the final digit. So we now have 9.81. Kawawa si truncating, hindi siya madagdagan kasi as what I've told you earlier, you just break it up. So ignore those numbers after the final digit and we have 9.8. So nagdi-differ pa rin sila. How about the next? Cube root of 9. So if you're going to encode it or input it on your calculator, so you will arrive this irrational number na 2.080083. So in rounding it up to 2 decimal places, so our final digit will be 8. Tapos our next digit is 0. Ay, buti na lang. So since 0 is less than 5, so we just remain as it is. So this is equal to 2.08. How about truncating? Of course, simple lang yun. Ignore mo lang. So we have 2.08. Ignore mo lang yung the rest. Kasi hanggang ano na tayo, 2 decimal places. So thankful tayo kasi yay, same na sila ng value ng rounding tsaka yung truncating. So magsi-same lang sila kapag yung condition pala ng rounding is less than 5. So kanang dun lang na point. But for 1/6, of course we have 0.166. If we're going to round this up, so we have 0.17 since the next digit is greater than 5. For truncating, ignore pa rin. So 0.16. So nagkakaiba talaga sila kapag yung rounding or yung next digit sa rounding is greater than 5. So I think we already through with lesson 1. So let's jump with lesson 2. So for lesson 2, so okay na class, are you still following me? Okay, so for lesson 2, we are going to talk about real number line. Since we already know what is a real number and what are the types of real numbers, and then we are going to talk also about inequalities, intervals, and absolute values. So these are important. So after this lesson pala, you'll be able to learn on how to draw real number lines. Then you'll be able to solve inequalities. Then you'll be able to compute intervals or interpret. Same din sa inequality, you can interpret these inequality expressions, and then you will be able to solve absolute values. So pag sinasabing absolute values, these are the magnitudes of each real number or the relative distance between two real numbers. So but before jumping to the procedure on how to draw the real number line, let's review first your elementary mathematics. So take note, don't forget, for the addition, this is the sign. For the subtraction, ito yung sign. But for the multiplication in higher math, especially in algebra, medyo parang obsolete na tong si asterisk, or in our elementary yung x. Medyo obsolete na si x. Move on na tayo kay x. Dito na lang tayo mag-adapt sa parenthesis. Then for division, mostly ang common na ina-apply ng mga instructor or in the engineering is this slash because it is easier. Unlike yung kay Ed Sheeran na ito, yung division, totoldok, bar, totoldok. So medyo mag-consume siya ng time sa pagsulat. So ito yung pinaka mostly ginagamit, yung slash lang. Then, don't forget, in mathematical operation, please apply heartily the PEMDAS rule. So you need to consider first the parentheses and the exponent. So this one, kung ano yung mauna, whoever comes first will be the first. So kapag nauna yung parentheses, so i-simplify mo muna yung parentheses. Kapag nauna yung exponent, i-simplify mo muna yung exponent. For the multiplication and division, so sila din yung parang magka-partner. Whichever comes first, kapag yung multiplication. Kapag division, i-divide. Then, ito din yung addition tsaka subtraction, yung pinakahuli. So, whichever comes first then sa kanila is yung mauna. If ever subtraction yung mauna, so mag-subtract ka. Kung addition, mag-add ka. So, ganun yung PEMDAS rule. And also, if you are going to simplify mathematical equations, you need to work from left to right. So ganito yan para hindi ka parang dili ka maglisod. It will not be kanang very difficult for you kung asa mao na gid, sir, is it addition or subtraction. So this one will decide. So mo siya imong ultimate nga determinant kung asa gid ang mauna, ang addition ba or yung subtraction, kasi you must start from left. So kapag sa left, kapag nakikita mo, oy sir, addition pala yung nauna, so mag-add ka. Kapag subtraction, magsa-subtract ka, mag-minus ka. So parang ganun lang. So para ma-visualize nyo, so let's have an example. So we have parenthesis 3 minus 7 plus 8 squared divided by 2 times 3. So hindi muna natin i-simplify ito, yung 2 times 3. Diba? As what I have told you, work from left hanggang right. So, as you can see here, we have parentheses. And then, in the parentheses, we have exponent. So, since nauna yung parentheses, so unahin natin pag-simplify yung nasa loob ng parentheses. Since nauna yung, sa loob pala ng parentheses, we have subtraction and addition. Remember, left to right. Since nauna yung subtraction, so i-subtract mo muna. So we have 3 minus 7 equals negative 4. And then, nasusunod yung addition ng 8. So negative 4 plus 8. Copy that one, divide by 2 times 3. So after that, negative 4 plus 8 is just 4. Sige, paano kung hindi natin yun isusunod? For example, we will just carelessly say that 3 minus 7 plus 8. So unahin natin 7 plus 8, magiging 15. Tapos 3 minus 15 is equal to negative 12. So may iba na talaga siya dito sa 4. So that's why you need to follow. Always work from left to right. So we have 4 squared divided by 2 times 3. So yung kasunod nito, 4 squared is equal to 16 divided by 2 times 3. So ito na. Sir, multiplication and division. Diba? From left to right. So ulit, left to right. So unahin natin pag-divide. 16 divided by 2 is equals to 8. Multiply natin ng 3. We now have a final answer of 24. So if you are going to input this mathematical expression into your calculator, cycle, or ordinary calculator, you will arrive this number, this value 24. Kasi yung calculator, naka-program yan siya, naka-PEMDAS rule yan, and it works from left to right. So, nakuha ra class? Class na sunod ra? Are you still following? Okay, thank you. So, another example. Paano kung bigyan kayo ng ganito? Hala sir, meron ng rational. Okay. Meron ng rational expression. So, meron ng numerator, meron ng denominator. Don't worry guys, just follow the rule. So, makikita natin, meron tayong parenthesis. So, dun ka sa parenthesis. So, dun tayo sa parentheses. 11 minus 5 is 6 cube. And then sa baba din, we can also simplify this. Since merong division, of course, hindi muna tayo mag-add ng 2 plus 1. Since nauna kasi si division, so we need to divide first. 6 divided by 2 equals 3. Then plus 1. Then copy the rest, minus 5 times 3 plus 1. Then next, we're going to simplify this. So, sinisimplify ko na lang ha, nagiging 54 to. Bakit? Kasi 6 cube is 216. Then 216 divided by 3 plus 1, which is 4. So 216 divided by 4 is 54. Copy this one, minus 5 times 3 plus 1. So ito na. Hindi pwede maging 54 minus 5 ha. Kasi meron tayong multiplication. Take note, kahit naka-work tayo from left to right, pero may multiplication dito, hindi pa rin to pwede. Hindi to pwede maging 54 minus 5 times 3. Hindi to. Dapat mauuna talaga yung negative 5 times 3. So, if you're going to simplify this, mauuna yung multiplication. So, we have 54 minus 15 plus 1. So dalawa na lang sila. We only now have addition and subtraction. So, mauuna yung subtraction kasi siya yung nauna sa left. So, we have 39 plus 1, which is equal to 40. So, ganito yan. And then, yung statements to expressions pala, importante din to. Why? Because in some mathematical problems, of course, some of it will be stated or are stated. For example, like the sum of two numbers or the sum of x and y. So parang yung iba gumagamit ng ganyan only for kanang limited ra na mga mathematical or algebraic expressions. But how about those algebraic expressions that are very complex? So yung mga complex na mga rational expressions, like for example, in the numerator, it contains also another fraction, and then on that fraction contains another fraction. So nagiging complex na siya. In that case, medyo hindi na talaga applicable yung statements. Kasi parang wala na. Para mag-ano ka na dyan. The quotient of the quotient of the quotient of that quotient of those quotient, wala. So, nakalito na. So, therefore, meron pa din tong limitation. But, in most cases, kasi yung mga algebraic expressions natin are just small. So, we can just state it out. So, ito na siya i-express or i-state. So, in stating this, we have several methods. So, for this example, we have the sum of two numbers A and B is 7. So, what do you think, class, is its, iyahang expression? So, guess. I-guess nyo, class. Ano yung parang, forma niya? It's not X and Y. Okay, yeah. So, A plus B equals 7. Since when we talk about kung is nagali, kapag meron tayong linking verb na is, it denotes an equal sign. So, equal ni siya. So that's why we have A plus 7, since it tells nga ang sum daw, yung sum daw. So A plus 7 equals 7. Another thing, so another example, the difference of two numbers A and B is equal to the sum of X and 4. So we now have the difference, another phrase na sad. Kapag sinasabing difference, subtraction yan. So sabi daw, the difference of two numbers, so yung difference daw ng A and B, so A minus B, is equal to, so meron ka equal sign, the sum of X and 4. So, i-write mo yung sum, then X plus 4. So, okay lang, di ba? Madali lang. So, next, let's jump up to multiplication. Kapag sinasabing multiplication, normal to, yung product. When we say product, it denotes multiplication. So, the product of two numbers, A and B, is equal to the quotient of X and Y. So, we still have is equal to na phrase. So, in mathematical symbol, we have A times B is equal to the quotient. So, we have X all over Y. So, ganito lang. From addition to division. So, ito yung mga common. These are the common phrases that we can find from addition to subtraction na operations. So, let's jump to somewhat medyo critical or crucial na part. For example, consider these two statements. Actually, they are not the same. They're very different class. For example, if you are going to say A more than 7, it's a different thing if you're going to say sum of A and 7. Because when we talk about more than, you're going to write this way. Isusulat mo muna yung A, class, ha? Isulat mo yung A. So, ito na. A, kapag sabing more than, so yung operation pala ng addition, kasi more than is hindi siya next sa A. It's previous. So, nauuna siya. It's before A. It's not after A. So, take note, ha, for more than, it's before the A, or it's before the number that you have stated on the first part. So, A plus, nangunguna, 7. So, kapag sinasabi lang kasi na plain na sum of A and 7, you can just write it as A plus 7. But don't worry, kasi class, it follows the commutative property. So, this one is still the same because if you add mango and apples, it's still the same as apple and mango. So, parang ganun lang. But, we need to be more specific sa mga phrases. Kasi kapag sinasabi kasing more than, mauuna talaga yung operation kaysa sa number. So, ganun yan. So, we also have on the subtraction part. So, when we talk about less than, so 3 less than x, we have this, x minus 3. So, the same with more than. Magkapareho lang to sila. They are very related to each other. When we say less than pala, of course, again, unahin mo yung 3 pagsulat. Then nauuna yung operation ng less than when we say less than. So, it involves subtraction or nag-iban ka. So, you reduce something. So, 3 less than. So, subtraction. Nauuna siya. Hindi siya after the number. So, 3x. So, therefore, kung babasahin natin to from left to right, this is equal to x minus 3. So, ganun lang. It is very different from this phrase. The difference between 3 and x. magiging ganito siya, 3 minus x. Kasi plain lang to na pagka-state eh. Plain lang siya na, yung difference lang ng dalawang number. Then also, value of x diminishes by 4. So, ito naman, meron ka namang another vocabulary mo. You have this diminished na word. When we say diminish, meaning nag-reduce ka, binawasan mo. So, that's why it involves subtraction. So, just simply write the value of x. So, write mo yung x diminished minus by 4. So, in simplest form, it is x minus 4. For this one, medyo yung remaining 2, medyo may kuan, marag na ni siya, medyo libog-libog ni siya gamay diri. Because when we say y is subtracted by 4, and z is subtracted to w, they are both different. Why? Because in the first part, when we say y is subtracted by, so mauuna yung y. Si y daw is sinasubtract ni 4. So meaning we have y minus 4. However, on the last part, when we talk about z is subtracted to w, meaning si z pala is sinasubtract dun kay w, so it means na si w pala yung binabawasan, hindi si z yung binabawasan ni w. So it's another way around. So we can write this into w minus z. Always take note with this preposition kasi isang preposition lang, it will define your parang your destiny sa pagtitake ng exam. Ito lang simple prepositional na word kaning to. Kapag sinasabing to, so siya yung magiging subtrahend mo. Hindi siya magiging minuend, subtrahend. So w minus z yung interpretation niya. So take note with this one, class, ha. So another one, we have 7 more than 3 times a number. So kapag sinasabing times, multiplication. So as what I've told you earlier, for the more than, mauuna yung 7, then mauuna sa kanya yung addition. So we have 7 plus, nauna yung plus, 3 times a number. So let's say the number is a. So we have 3 times a. So in simplest nga pagka-note, this is 3a plus 7. So ganun lang. And also don't forget this next two expressions, the twice and the thrice. When we say twice, it means we double up in number, so 2x. And when we also say thrice, we triple up the number, so 3x siya. So ganun lang. These are just the basic mga statements na magagamit mo. Especially there are some problems in math na gumagamit din sa word na to, yung twice tsaka thrice. So last one, yung last na statement natin na di-discuss is ito yung medyo nalilito yung mga students. Yung ano ba yung parang different ng the square of the difference of x and y and the difference of the squares of x and y. Actually, if you're going to interpret a certain mathematical statements, formula nga in my opinion, still you apply those rule na you are going to start working from left to right. So kapag naunguna yung the square, so di ba sinasabi dito the square, so meaning put mo muna yung square. So okay, the square pala, so square, okay, i-square natin yung ano, so we don't know. So next, square lang natin, o lagay natin ito, square. So this is now the result, so lagay natin square. Pero sabi dito, the square daw of the difference, so yung kasunod pala na condition is the difference of x and y. So ganun pala. So meaning, nasa loob ng square is yung x minus y. So ganito lang. Ganito lang to, hindi pwede na x squared minus y squared. Kasi it's a different thing. You should work from left to right. So for the second example, the difference of the squares of x and y. Since nauna is a difference, so you just write the negative sign between the two. So the difference pala of the squares of x and y. So ito yung sinasabi ko. So ang difference pala sa squares. So i-square mo yung x, i-square mo din si y. So meaning, in its simplest notation, we can read this as x squared minus y squared. So okay class, hindi na kayo nalilito. What na mo naglibog ni ining apart? Are we clear with this one? Okay, so thank you. So let's have an example 1. How about if you are given this? Sir, grabe no. Okay, sir, grabe naman po na sir, nganong rational expression man tayo na. But we can still state this one even if medyo libog siya, daghan siya mga components. So in its simplest form, we can read this as 3 plus x squared all over x plus y. We can state this, it depends upon you because we are very creative man sa bawat isa. So we can also state this one in this way. The quotient, kasi divide to the quotient, so lagay mo quotient of the square, so lagay mo yung square pala, of the sum of 3 and x. So sa loob pala ng square is yung sum ng 3 and x. So 3 plus x squared. Since sinasabi mong quotient pala siya, so syempre it needs the denominator side. So the denominator is and the sum of x and y. So state dito the sum of x and y. So meaning the denominator is x plus y. You can also state this one in this way. So the square, so parang unahin mo pag state yung numerator. Unahin mo yung itaas. So let's say the square of the sum of 3 and x. So square daw sa sum ng 3 and x divided. Pag sinasabing divided, so i-divide pala yun. Yung sinasabi mo before, i-divide mo pala yun. Divided by the sum of x and y. So simple as that. Divided by x plus y. So very simple. Now let's have another example. How about if you're given 3 times x plus 2 plus 4? So in this case, we can say that this is 4 more than 3 times the sum of x and 2. Kasi di ba sabi ko noon, you can use this more than kasi di ba sa huli. Like you can start on the back part or on the rear part. So 4 more than, meron tayong addition, 3 times, so 3 times the sum of x and 2. So di ba? Simple as that. You can also state this in this way. 3 times, so pwede, you can start on the first part. Dito sa 3. So we have 3 times the sum of x and 2 plus 4. So parang ganun lang, plus lang. So plus 4. So simple as that. It is still accepted. So next, let's now jump with the methods on how to draw real number line. So why is real number line important? Class, it will visualize the position of all real numbers. So it is a graphical representation in short. So para makikita mo o ma-observe mo na okay, yung 2 pala is malayo siya, dun siya, tapos yung negative 2 tsaka yung negative 1 medyo malapit lang sila, tsaka andun pala sila sa may left na part. So left part of from the origin. So if you're going to draw a real number, so this will look in this way. Ito. So meron kang straight line. So straight line. But this straight line, you have an arrow. You must indicate an arrow on both ends. When we say arrow on both ends, it indicates that this is a continuous line. So nagko-continue to infinitely. Hindi natin alam. So for the purpose of kanang illustration, hanggang dito lang. So that's why let's put an arrow sign. And for your number line, not only straight line, we also have this. Yung nakikita nyo na palang vertical lines. These are graduation lines. So this will determine the precision of your real number line. Sa akin lang, yung precision ko is up to whole number lang. So hindi ako nag-include ng mga graduation para sa mga sa 1/2 for the decimal. So it's up to you. It's your own preference. So for this, you can now have the labels. So for the center part, you label this as 0 or the origin. So parang ito yung parang basis natin, yung 0, wala siyang value. And then on the right side of the origin, we have the positive numbers from 1, 2, 3, 4 hanggang positive infinity. And on the left side, we have the negative numbers from negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4 hanggang negative infinity. So ganito lang tayo mag-draw ng real number line class. Then for our inequalities, so let's jump with our inequalities. So when we talk about inequalities, it will determine the ordering and comparison of real numbers. For example, is it true na yung 4 or yung negative 9 is greater than 2? So let's prove it. So since negative 9 na siya, so doon na siya sa malayo, sa left side na siya, so kunti talaga yung value niya, maliit yung value niya. So that's why we have this. We need to compare kung which is bigger than the other. So that's why inequalities came. So for example, in this statement, sabi daw dito, real numbers A and B, A is greater than B if A minus B is positive. So this is true, guys. Bakit? Kapag kasi sabi dito, si A daw is greater than B. So therefore, kung malaki si A, kung isubtract mo si B sa kanya, magiging positive yung answer. Bakit? Of course, malaki siya eh. Kung maliit siya, kung maliit yung A tsaka malaki yung B, kapag isubtract mo siya in this way, A minus B, ma-negative siya. Bakit? Kasi maliit na si A, hindi na siya malaki. So parang ganun yung concept ng inequalities class. So this is the simplest definition of an inequality. Ito in a mathematical statement. And then for inequality class, we have this popular na mga symbols. So we have less than as denoted with this. So follow my cursor. This is a less than symbol. We have a greater than symbol. We also have a combination of less than and equal. We also have greater than or equal. Then we also classify these symbols into two. So we have strict. Always take note with this one, class. Kapag nag-iisa lang, less than lang or greater than, these are strict inequalities. When we say strict inequalities, hindi kasali yung number. For example, x is less than 5. Strict talaga siya. Hindi. Pasensya na. Hindi kasali yung 5. Less than talaga lang 5. All values lang talaga na lesser than 5. Hindi siya pwede ma-include yung 5. But for non-strict, so medyo maluwag-luwag to siya. It will accept considerations or mistakes kasi hindi siya stricto. So it can be applied for symbols for lesser than or equal and greater than or equal. Kasi yung number is included. For example, if you have x is greater than or equal to 5, meaning yung value ng x is included, yung 5 is included sa value ng x. Kasi equal siya eh, equal or greater than. So ganun yan. We have two types, the strict and the non-strict. So don't forget this one. So for less than, take note, this is important when you state a certain mathematical expression. So for less than, this symbol is also the same with at most. So pag sinasabi pa lang at most, hanggang dun lang. For example, at most 5. Hanggang 5 ka lang talaga. Hindi ka na pwede na mag-exceed. So ano ka lang, parang dun ka lang, parang dun yung boundary mo. Whereas kapag sinasabing greater than in this symbol, this is also the same when you say at least. When you say at least, for example, pwede panghiram at least 100 lang. So when you say at least, it could be greater. So it could be greater. Kasi for example, para siyang ano ba, this is the minimum value. Ito yung minimum value, hindi pa ito yung maximum value. Kasi pag sinasabing at most, ito na talaga yung maximum value. Yung at least, minimum. So always take note with that one. Are you still following me, class? Okay. So for the let's jump with the plotting of inequalities. So for the first part, example, we are given with an inequality x less than 3. So if we're going to interpret this one, so these are values of x that is less than 3. Since strict siya, so excluding, hindi kasali si 3 na value. If we're going to plot this on our real number line, so let's have this 3. So I put a hollow circle. Why hollow circle? Kasi strict siya eh. So excluded yung 3, hindi kasali. That's why I'll just denote it. On some books or in your module sa mga nag-choose og printed online, they use this parenthesis. So it's still equal and I will accept it. Kung nagamit ka ng parenthesis, it's okay for me. If you're using this hollow circle, it's still okay for me. So you already draw this and then you put an arrow, a yellow arrow as represented in this figure hanggang negative infinity. Since sabi niya, values daw ng x na less than 3. So patungo siya ng negative infinity kasi less than siya. Okay. So for the next question, we have an inequality x is greater than or equal to negative 2. So meron tayong equal, meaning non-strict na siya. So kapag sinasabing non-strict, these are values which is also included yung number. So if we're going to interpret this one, we can say that these are the values of x that is greater than -2, including also to -2 since equal man siya, since non-strict siya. Therefore, included yung 2. So if we're going to plot this one in a real number 9, so let's locate -2. So ito na yung -2. This time class, yung nilalagay ko na is a solid na circle since included na yung -2. Then after that one, since sabi niya greater than, so ano yung mga number na greater than -2? So of course, it will go towards the positive infinity na side. So as represented by this arrow, yellow arrow. So nag-go siya sa positive infinity. The next example, we have a combination. So dalawa na, double inequality. So how are we going to interpret this one or plot this? So we have 2 greater than x, and x is also greater than or equal to -1. So on the left side, we have a strict inequality. So hindi kasali si 2, kawawa. Dito is, on the right side, we have a non-strict, meaning si -1 is kasali. If we're going to interpret this, so meaning these are values of x between the range of 2 and -1, including -1 but not 2. Why? Because this part right here is a strict inequality. So if we're going to plot this on a real number line, so let's locate first. So pwede ito yung locate natin, -1 or yung 2. So in this case, locate natin yung 2. Since it is a strict, so hollow siya na circle. Hollow lang siya, hindi kasali si 2. The next, all values from -1 and 2. So ito yun as represented by this yellow rectangle. Since included yung -1, so magiging hollow, magiging solid siya na circle. So ganito lang class, very simple. You should be familiarized with the strict and the non-strict inequalities. Then let's go to interval. When we say interval, these are boundaries. So boundary lang to kung saan. For example, border to border, like pwede ka lang pala makatravel from Ormoc to Baybay. So hanggang Baybay ka lang at hanggang Ormoc ka lang. So nothing more, nothing less. So when we say interval, these are the range of real numbers. Then also interval, it is also another type of kanang inequality notation or another method sa pag annotate mo ng inequality. So for example, para ma-visualize nyo, example, we have all real numbers between 1 and -1. So how are we going to annotate this one into inequality? An interval. So for inequality, sabi niya, all numbers daw between 1 and -1, hindi sinasabi dito na included yung 1 tsaka -1. Therefore, itong expression na to is a strict inequality. So for the inequality, we have -1 less than x since between man. So meaning x is greater than -1, and then but x is less than 1 since in between man siya. So you can rewrite din na mauuna si 1. So just say 1 is greater than x and x is greater than -1. So it's up to you. If we're going to write this in the interval notation, so we have open parenthesis, -1, comma, and then 1, close parenthesis. So it is very similar when you are going to annotate a point on a Cartesian coordinate plane. But take note, in the interval notation, meron tayong rules dito. Hindi lang to simpleng parenthesis kasi meron din tong ibang form. So for this time, kapag yung ginagamit mo is parenthesis, these are open interval, meaning hindi kasali. So in other words, sa inequality notation, these are strict. So kawawa. So for strict inequalities pala, gagamitin mo yung parenthesis sa strict. Kapag sa non-strict, so we'll talk about that later, but a clue for non-strict na inequalities or those numbers nga included siya, you are going to put a brace. So brace hindi siya parenthesis, so brace. So we have rules sa interval. The first rule is open interval. So pag sinasabing open interval, these are non-strict inequalities. So we have -3 less than x less than 3. Since open man siya, so we're going to use parentheses. So parentheses yung gagamitin mo sa dalawa. Since itong dalawang number na to is hindi kasali. So parentheses lang lalagay mo. If we're going to draw this one, so we have a number line and then we locate the two numbers. So we have -3, hollow din kasi hindi siya kasali. And then we draw the rectangle. So these are the values between -3 and 3. Then finally, draw the point 3. Sa 3, hindi siya kasali, so hollow pa din. So ganito lang plot ng interval sa number line. So for the open interval. For the next rule, the second rule for the closed interval. Sa closed interval naman, they use strict inequality, non-strict inequality symbol. So these are greater than or equal, less than or equal. So for a closed interval, you should use the brace. Ito yung forma ng brace. So ganito. Sinasangipin sa brace. So for the brace, if you're going to plot this, so don't use hollow na class since included man yung value ng 3 tsaka -3, so magiging solid na. It will now be a solid circle. Then you're going to put a line or put highlight sa those numbers nga included, so between -3 and 3, and then finally sa point 3 you will have this solid nga circle, round solid circle. So this is how you're going to plot closed interval notations. The next we have open and close, so a combination of open and close. So for open, take note, you have parentheses since hindi kasali yung -3 kasi strict to less than lang. So follow my cursor class. Then for 3 here, the next one, since this is a non-strict, since less than or equal ra siya, therefore you use brace since the value is included. If you're going to plot this, so expect that the -3 is a hollow since strict siya, and then the 3 here is a solid. Then connect both points. So you just highlight it. So sa akin ginagamit ko yellow na rectangles. I'll just highlight because these are the values of your x. So open and close. Yan yung sa open and close. You have a hollow and a solid or a parenthesis and a brace. For open unbounded, so dalawa na. Take note, always for open is parenthesis. How about unbounded class? So sir, unsa day sa unbounded? You know say unbounded walay limit. For example, for this inequality, x is greater than -3. So meaning, yung mga values ng nag-start siya more than 3 or more than -3 hanggang positive infinity. So meaning for the unbounded pala, always take note sa unbounded pala, for the case of infinity, you use parentheses kasi hindi natin alam, it's arbitrary as what I have told you on the previous slides na arbitrary, hindi natin alam yung exact value niya, meaning wala, like we are uncertain, so that's why we just put parentheses. The same with open. So take note lang class para sa unbounded pala, parentheses, hindi siya brace. Yung brace lang is limited to non-strict inequalities. So ganito lang. And then we're going to write it in the number line, locate -3. And then since we cannot locate infinity, so it's on the right side. So let's just put an arrow, highlighted in yellow, just put arrow there. So hollow siya since open unbounded man siya. So for the next one, how about close unbounded? So you will just use brace because in this time the -3 is already included. So you just use brace, but the unbounded na word has not been changed. So still use phrase, still use parentheses. So if you're going to plot this, so magiging solid na yung -3, then i-highlight mo yung mga all values hanggang towards the right side, hanggang positive infinity. So ganun lang class, parang words to remember. Like for open, use parentheses. For close, use brace since for non-strict siya. For unbounded, positive or negative infinity, you just use parentheses. Same with the open interval. So we also have a special case for unbounded. So pag sinasabi unbounded talaga, on both sides unbounded siya. So these are, on the other word, all real numbers kasi in a range from negative infinity siya hanggang positive infinity. So as what I have told you, unbounded class, parentheses lang yun imong gamiton. So parenthesis siya. Then on your real number line, so you just like highlight everything, and then imo siya i-arrow padong sa left, then you also put an arrow to the right. So all real numbers, lahat masasagap niya, like lahat sa iya jud. So let's have an example for interval notation. So we are given a parenthesis, -1, an open interval. So for this one, this is a strict inequality notation. So if we're going to state this into inequality notation, we have this -1 less than x and then less than 1, because these are values between -1 and 1. If we're going to state this, so mana siya? Ito yung range of real numbers greater than 1 but less than 1. Hindi included yung -1 tsaka 1 since strict to eh. So if we're going to plot this, so just locate the two values. -1, hollow siya since it is an open interval. Then we have 1 still hollow, and then highlight the portion that is between -1 and 1. So yan na yung magiging value mo sa x. Another example, you have an interval, open interval, -infinity to 4. So since 4 is in bracket form na siya, meaning 4 is already included. So in inequality symbol, these are x, value of x less than or equal to 4. So these are non-strict. Hindi siya stricto. So included na yung 4 ha. Since less than man siya, so aabot yun hanggang -infinity. So if we're going to state this, so these are real numbers less than or equal to 4. So if you are going to plot this, so locate first the number 4. So ito yung 4. Solid siya since yung ginagamit mo is brace. And then since -infinity siya kasi less than eh. So towards the left side ka. So dito ka sa left side. So ito na. Dito ka sa left side, ma-arrow ka hanggang -infinity. So ganun lang. So if you're going to require to convert it into inequality notation, don't forget these parentheses and braces. Parentheses for open interval, hollow, and then for strict. The braces is for solid circle, and then for non-strict din siya. Then included ang iya value. So yan na siya. So for the last example, we have an open interval, -infinity hanggang 0 open interval. So parentheses. So meaning yung ginagamit na inequality natin is a strict inequality. So x is less than 0. So ganito lang pag-state nito. You can also state in this way, -infinity is less than x and x is less than 0. It is still the same. But for me, this one works best, or this one is the most simplified form. X is less than 0. If you're going to state this, so these are just all real numbers less than 0. So imo na siya plot. Locate first the number, ang 0, since we cannot locate -infinity because it's an arbitrary thing in nature. So locate na lang yung 0 since open interval siya, so 0 lang, hollow, tapos mag-arrow ka patungo -infinity. So ganun lang class. Don't forget ingana lang atong mga rules na ina-apply sa interval. So nakuha na class, are you still following me? Okay pa ta? Medyo taas-taas dito kaya we have 3 examples. Okay na, okay. So let's proceed to the absolute values. The last topic for this lesson 2. So when we talk about absolute values, these are the magnitude of a real number. For example, yung 2. Yung parang distance niya from the origin, because lahat kasi magbe-base sa origin since origin is considered to be a neutral number. So wala siyang value kasi 0 eh. So these are the magnitudes. For example, yung 2, yung magnitude ng kanyang ng 2 is just 2. For example, yung -2 din, yung magnitude niya relative to our neutral number which is 0 is also 2. Then it is also used to determine the distance between real numbers. For example, ano ba yung distansya? What is the distance between 4 and -3? So we can get that one using absolute values. And then take note class, as you can see on my cursor, absolute values cannot be negative. Ito lang talaga yung tatandaan nyo. Kapag nag-answer na talaga kayo ng negative, tas nag-absolute value yung number, no, you are already wrong. So, wrong ka na. Dapat, absolute values cannot be negative in all cases. Basta, absolute value of a number, ha, or an expression. Yung anak siya. So, we have rule number 1. For positive number, so the absolute value of a positive number is obvious. This is still a positive. So, therefore, it conforms with our inequality symbol, which is greater than or equal to 0. Because absolute value of 0 is 0. So, hindi siya strict. Non-strict siya. Kasi included yung 0 eh. So, let's have an example. If you're going to take the absolute value of a positive 3 number, still, positive 3, which conform with our condition here, that is 3 is greater than or equal to 0. So, ganito lang. Another one, absolute value of 0.1 is just equal to 0.1. So, remember, for positive number, magre-retain lang siya, leave as it is. But, for rule number 2, for negative numbers, so if we're going to take the absolute value for negative number, so you just simply multiply it by negative 1. So, yung multiply lang natin ng negative 1. So, for example, if we have a negative a, so you just simply write negative 1 times negative a para magiging positive na siya. In order to comply with our definition here that absolute values or absolute numbers or the absolute value of a number cannot be negative. So, example, we have absolute value of negative 8. So, if we're going to simplify this, so we multiply negative 1 to negative 8. So, we have negative 1 times negative 8, we have 8. So, therefore, it is already a positive number. For rule number 3, we have what if absolute value of the product of A and B, it is also equal to the product of their absolutes. So, absolute value of A times absolute value of B. So, let's say we have an example here, absolute value of the product of negative 8 and 2. So, we can write this as the product of the absolute value of negative 8 and the absolute value of negative 2. 2, wala tayong problema dito kasi 2 is already a positive number. Therefore, its absolute value is still the same. 2 pa rin. Pero, yung negative 8, so by applying the second rule for negative numbers, so we just multiply it by negative 1. So, magiging negative 8 times negative 1 times 2. So, we have a final answer of 16. So, ganun lang. Take note for the rule. We have the final rule, which is the division. For the division, so what if we're going to take the absolute value of the quotient of A and B? So, ito na, A and B. So, this is just the same as the quotient of their absolutes. So, absolute value of A over the absolute value of B. So, parang siniseparate lang siya. We have this example. So, the absolute value of the quotient of negative 5 and 15. These are rational number. So, this is equal to the absolute of this is equal to the quotient of their absolutes. So, we have absolute of negative 5 all over absolute of 15. So, we don't have any problem with 15 because this is already positive. Remember rule number 1. So, magiging 15 pa rin to. But, for the case of negative 5, since it follows rule number 2 for negative numbers, so we just have to multiply it by negative 1. So, negative 1 times negative 5 is equal to 5. 5 over 15, which is, wrong pala to, mali to, this is equals to 1/3. So, 1/3 pala to. So, ganun lang. Then, another thing for absolute values is that we are going to determine the distance between the 2 points on the number line. Let's say we have point A located on negative 3 and we have point B located on 2. So, we're going to determine the distance between A and B. So, this is how we are going to do this, or this is how we are going to solve this one. So, denote the distance between A and B, denoted as DAB, is just equal to the absolute of their difference. So, you need to find first their difference, so A minus B, and then take the absolute. Example, for this, A is negative 3 minus B, which is positive 2. So, negative 3 minus 2 is equal to negative 5. Then, take the absolute. What is the absolute value of negative 5? So, since it follows rule number 2 for negative numbers, so we just have to multiply it by negative 1. So, negative 1 lang tayo, class. Negative 1 times negative 5 is equals to 5. So, ganun lang. Simple as that. Pero yung negative 5, so bakit negative 5, sir? Of course, we can also look at this on the, or we can also notice this on the number line. Kasi kapag, if we're going to count from negative 3 to negative 2, 1 unit, to negative 1, 2 units, from 0, 3 units, then to 1, 4 units, hanggang sa, abot tayo sa B, which is 5 units. So therefore, in a short meaning, ang absolute values is just the distance between two points on the number line. So ganun lang. For example, we have here another example, the distance between A and B. So A, it is approximately negative 1.5. So we write negative 1.5 minus, and B is approximately negative 0.5. I mean positive 0.5. So we take the difference between A and B. So negative 1.5 minus 0.5. So we have negative 2. Since this is a negative number, so we take the absolute value for a negative number, follow rule number 2. So we now have negative times negative 2. So we have a positive 2. So therefore, we are still conforming with the definition that absolute values cannot be negative, always positive. So let's evaluate some expressions nga nagkuhan siya that includes absolute values. So for example, if we are given this 3 times the absolute value of the sum of x plus 3 all over the absolute value of the sum of x plus 1 and minus 7, such that our x is equal to 2. So class, are you still following me? Okay pa ta class, medyo nalapa sila gamay. So let's just finish this kay anyways for the last lesson, medyo gamay na lang to dito. So for this, you just substitute the value of x. So 3 times absolute value of 2 plus 3 all over 2 plus 1 minus 7. So you need to simplify first the parentheses following the rule of PEMDAS. So 3 times 2 plus 5 is 5. All over 2 plus 1 is 3. So absolute value of 5 and absolute value of 3 on the denominator minus 7. Since both numbers that are inside an absolute value are positive, so positive man sila, wala tayong problema. Since it is remain as it is. So 3 times 5 over 3 minus 7. So we have 15 divided by negative 4. So we have negative 3.75. Sir, diba sir, you told us a while ago that absolute values cannot be negative. Why is it that we have arrived this answer? Of course, kasi hindi lahat. Hindi yung buong expression nilagyan natin ng absolute value na bar. Only inside the parentheses and also on the denominator. So meaning, we can still have the possibility to arrive in negative number. It depends because I already told you earlier na ang ako lang i-ascertain ninyo is just the absolute of a number or an expression cannot be negative. So dito, hindi kasi yung buong expression yung nilagyan natin ng absolute bar. So therefore, we still have the probability or the possibility to arrive a negative answer. So ganun yan. So next na question. So I think this is you can find it in your in your module. So the absolute value of x all over x such that x, yung unang condition must be x less than 0 and x must be greater than 0. When we say x less than 0, these are negative numbers, diba? Yung mga numbers na less than 0, those are negative integers. Then we also have x greater than 0. These are positive numbers. So let's try to solve first those x that are less than 0. So yung mga negative numbers. So let's substitute. So therefore pala, if yung x is less than 0, so we have a negative x. And also on the denominator, we also have negative. So taking the absolute value of negative x, so we have negative times negative x all over the denominator negative x. So we have x all over negative x. So since meron tayong negative sa denominator natin, so we can say that this expression x divided by negative x, so makakancel yung x. So what's left is negative 1. Therefore, negative 1 pala yung sagot. Para sa mga x na nang iiwan. Sorry pala. Para sa mga x na less than 0. So next, for x that is greater than 0, so these are ano siya, mga positive numbers. So let's just write x, positive x, absolute value of the positive x all over a positive x. And then the absolute value of a positive number is just simply the number or the variable x all over x. So x divided by x equals 1. So they have different answers. So depending upon the condition, since ito is less than 0, ito is greater than 0. So next, how about this one? Supply an appropriate inequality sign. So we have 3 minus 5, then we have 5 plus 4 minus 12, so absolute values. So we are going to compare this. So let's simplify this one. So we have absolute value of 3 minus 5, so 3 minus 5 is negative 2. Then we have absolute value of 5 plus 4, we have 9, and then minus 12. Absolute of a negative number, so magiging 2 na ito. 2 na solid. Ito pong 9, since positive, so 9 lang din. So 9 minus 12 equals negative 3. So therefore pala, as we simplify this further, we can say that the left side pala is greater than the right side. So ganito yan pag evaluate mo ng absolute values on an inequality sign. So next, we're going... Okay. Any question? Actually siya, I'll just leave it blank. Blank lang ba para ma-supply nimo kung unsa nga type nga inequality. So I just leave it blank. So it doesn't matter. Okay. It's just a blank. So next, how about the distance? So for example, if you're given a distance, so solve for the distance of the real number a equals negative 10 and the real number b, which is equal to negative 120 on the number line. So i-draw natin, or let's just write the notation. So when we solve for the distance, so let's denote this in this way. The distance of a, so d of a and b, is just the absolute of their difference. So yung difference ng a and b. So a is negative 10 minus negative 120. So we have negative 10 plus 120. And now its answer is 110. So therefore, we're going to take the absolute value of 110. Since it is a positive number, therefore leave as it is. So we have a distance of 110. So ito yung pagkuha ng distance of a two real numbers on a number line. So ganito lang kasimple. So I think we're already through with lesson 2. So we now on the final part, or on the final lesson of module 1. So here we're going to talk about those rules in algebra and also about algebraic expressions. So this is important because it represents a certain formula or a certain thing on a specific problem. For example, we're going to find the perimeter of a rectangle. So we have an expression of 2 times length plus width. So something like that. So after this lesson, you are going to learn how to discuss the different rules in algebra. And then you will be able to apply these rules in solving certain algebraic expressions. So ganun lang. So what are these expressions? So these are combinations of numbers and variables. But it's not only numbers and variables, kasi ano ba magagawa sa numbers at variables lang? Of course, these numbers and variables are related or intertwined by each other using mathematical operators. So they must have operations like addition, multiplication, and division. So sample of these expressions, 2x squared. So they are separated by a multiplication sign. So 2 times x squared. So this is a single term na expression. And of course, we have this very medyo libog kayo siya. So complex rational expression. So x plus 1 over 2x plus 3. This is still an expression because it is separated by mathematical operators. Plus and minus sign, we also have division. So something like that. We also have multiplication. And then lastly, of course, we also have 4/3 pi r cubed. So this is a very important expression that represents the volume of a sphere. So that's why I've told you na importante gyud nga ato ma-learn ang algebraic expression because this is very important on the later part or on the higher subjects, sa inyong higher subjects. So for an algebraic expression, meron siyang meron siyang mga parts. So we have the coefficients. So these are the constant values, mostly numbers yun siya, and it comes before the variable. So ito pala yung variable natin. Take note sa variable natin, it's not only limited to letters only to the degree of 1. So hindi lang x. Pwede ito maging x squared, squared of x, log of x, so in any other form. As long as it contains an arbitrary letter or an arbitrary number nga, hindi natin alam kung ano ba talagang value niya. So that's why we represent this so as a letter. Kasi nagva-vary ito depende upon the condition. So this is the basic parts of an algebraic expression. And we also have different types of algebraic expressions. So these types are kanang determined by this algebraic term. So when we talk about algebraic terms, so these are terms separated only, take note, separated only by plus and minus signs. So plus and minus operations lang. Hindi pwede na multiplication kasi yung multiplication isang term lang yun Hindi rin pwede division kasi isang term lang. So for example, we have monomial, so 2x squared, nag-iisa lang. Then we also have binomial, 2x squared plus xy. They are separated by plus sign. So isang term to yung 2x squared, isang term, and then xy, isang term din. And then we also have trinomial. So we have 2x squared, first term, we have second term, xy, and then we have third term, 9. And we also have fourth nomial, or we call this polynomial, until the nth nomial. So many more. So ganun, marami tayong types ng algebraic expression which is determined by this denominator, the algebraic term, which is separated by positive and negative na mga operation. So the rule of adding and subtracting algebraic expressions, so you can add or subtract terms that has the same variable, but take note, not only the same variable but has a corresponding exponent. Same din siya sa kanilang exponent. For example, we can combine this 2x squared and 3x squared. So it will result to 5x squared since they have the same variable x, and they also have its same corresponding exponents, which is to the power of 2. Whereas this one, the second example, we cannot combine this. Why? Because on the first term, it has a variable x, while in the second term, it has a variable y already. So meaning they are very different. So it cannot be combined. The same too with the third example, this 2x squared and 3x. Hindi sila pwede, although they have the same variable x, but they don't have the same exponent. Sa first term is squared, sa second term is only 1 to the power of 1. So hindi, still cannot be combined. Hindi pa rin to pwede ma-combine. And then for substitutional rule, of course, this is very popular in evaluating algebraic expression. So you just evaluate expression by using the known values of the variable. So kung ano yung binibigay na values ng ating variable, so yun lang yung parang isa-substitute mo sa expression. For example, the given expression is 2x squared plus 3x. So just input the negative 4. And also, don't forget to use the PEMDAS rule and always work from left to right. So 2 times negative 4 squared plus 3 times negative 4. So for negative 4 squared, this will result to 16. So 2 times 16 minus 12. So do first the multiplication. So we have 16 times 2, 32 minus 12. So we come up a final answer of 20. So ganito lang class mag-simplify or mag-evaluate ng algebraic expression. Another thing, so we have 2x squared minus 7 times x minus 2 all over x plus 4, in which our condition is that x should be equal to negative 1. So we will just substitute it directly. So don't forget the PEMDAS, so 2 times negative 1 squared minus 7 times negative 1 minus 2 all over negative 1 plus 4. So we need to simplify first the parentheses. Kung ano yung nasa parentheses, yun yung una mong gagawin talaga kasi fa-follow tayo ng PEMDAS rule. So dito, negative 1 squared is just 1. So 2 times 1 minus, sa loob ng parenthesis dito is meron tayong fraction. So we need to simplify this one first. So negative 1 minus 2 is equal to negative 3. And negative 1 plus 4 is just 3. So therefore, we have 2 times 1 is equals to 2. This one right here, negative 3 divided by 3 is equal to negative 1. So we have here. So therefore, 2 minus 7 times negative 1. So unahin natin yung multiplication. Hindi pwedeng 2 minus 7 bago i-multiply ng negative 1. Hindi yun. Dapat multiplication talaga. Rule of PEMDAS. So we have 2 plus 7. Since negative 7 times negative 1 is positive 7. So 7 plus 2 is equals to 9. So this is now our final answer for this algebraic expression given a condition which is x should be equal to negative 1. So we have properties of algebra. The first property is the commutative property. So this is only good for addition and multiplication class. Hindi bawal to sa subtraction and division. Why? Okay, let's take a look at this. For addition, we have x plus 3 is the same as 3 plus x. If you are going to apply it on subtraction, so x minus 3 is equals to 3 minus x. Do you think it is equal? Class, do you think it is equal? Are you sure yung subtraction? Actually, sa subtraction, hindi siya maging equal. Kasi for example, we have 4 minus 3 equals 1. Then, how about if we're going to take 3 minus 4? So, magiging ano na siya? Negative 1. So, therefore, it's a very different thing. So, commutative property can only be applied in addition. And for multiplication, of course, we have 3 times x is just equal to x times 3. Kasi for example, sa division kasi hindi pwede. Alam niyo ko bakit. For example, 4 divided by 2 is equals to 2. But if you're going to take the other side, which is 2 divided by 4, is equals to 1/2. So, magkaiba talaga siya. That's why commutative property is not applicable both on subtraction and division. Hindi siya pwede. Another example, 3x squared plus y is equals to y plus 3x squared. So, if you have some examination that involves identifying these properties, so it would be very easier for commutative property since makikita mo na parang ini-interchange siya. So, nauna yung 3x squared dito sa other side of the equation, nahuli na naman siya. The same true with the multiplication, nauna dito yung 3x squared, on the other side of the equation, parang ando na siya sa huli. So, ganun lang mag-ano ng commutative. Parang ini-interchange lang yung dalawang term. Then, of course, finally, if you're going to add sana plus all, it's still the same with all plus sana. Sana all ka pa rin. So, ganun. Okay, proceed na tayo. The associative property. Sa associative property, same sa commutative property, I think it cannot be applied only for addition and multiplication only. Say for example, 9 plus x plus 3 is just equal to 9 plus x plus 3. So para ka na nag-associate or nag-group. For example, if you're going to group the second and the third term. So ito, second, so take a look at my cursor, second and third term. Parang ginugroup mo siya. Sa next part naman is ginugroup mo yung first at second term na. Still, equal pa rin to kapag i-simplify mo to. This is still equal. So, walang nababago. The same true with multiplication. So, ginugroup ko yung 3 and x plus 1 expression. Then, sa second part, ginugroup ko na yung x plus 1 and y. The same thing, walang mababago. Both are equal. So, yan yung associative, yung pag-group mo. The same true with this example. We have 3x squared plus y plus 2. Nauna kong ginugroup yung first two terms. Then, on the other side of the equation, ginugroup ko na yung last two terms. So, y plus 2. The same true with multiplication. Ginugroup ko dito muna yung first two terms, the 3x squared and y. And then, on the second part of the equation or the other side of the equation, I already now group y and z. So, yung second na, yung y and z na. So, ganito lang for the associative property. And then for the distributive property, so parang ano lang, i-distribute mo lang for every term. For example, if you are given x times 3 plus m, so you will just simply distribute this. So x times 3 plus x times m. The same thing with the second example, this one right here. So we have negative 3x squared i-distribute mo. So, negative 3x squared times y plus, of course, class, don't forget, kasi meron kasing iba, mga careless parang ini-ignore na yung negative dito. So, always write that one. So, negative 3x squared times 4. So, parang ganun lang. And then next, the last example, we have m minus 1 times n. So, you are obliged to distribute this n to each term inside this parenthesis. So, we have m times n minus 1 times n. So, parang ganun lang yung distributive property of algebraic expression. And then, we also have identity property. So, these are only for addition and multiplication only. For example, in addition, any number that is added by 0, of course, the result would still be the number because m plus 0 equals m and a plus 0 is still a. For multiplication, of course, you are going to perform any number nga ang result pa din is yung number. So, isang choice lang, we just multiply by 1. So, m times 1 equals m and a times 1 equals a. Kaya tinatawag siyang multiplicative identity property. So, this is very important class, especially if you're going to convert units. Kasi for example, for example, mga numbers na if you want to convert, for example, density, i-convert mo siya into kilogram per cubic meter, from kilogram to cubic meter to pounds per square per cubic inches. So, sa conversion kasi, hindi tayo nagdagdag sa conversion kasi yung conversion natin, yung conversion factor natin is just equal to 1. So, para siyang nagpa-follow sa multiplicative identity property, which you just multiply the number by 1 and still this is just the same with the previous number. So, kaya nga yung mga conversion are equal. For example, meter to centimeter, centimeter to inches, they are all equal. So, kasi nag-multiply ka lang ng 1. Ganon. So, next, we have additive and multiplicative inverse. So, for the additive inverse, this is just the opposite of addition. So, if you are going to find the additive inverse of m, so the opposite of m is negative m. So, if you're going to add the additive inverse of a number, ang result niya is ma-0 siya. And another thing, kaning a, ang multiplicative number niya is negative a, so the result would be 0. Sir, what if in the case of negative number? So, the additive inverse of a negative number is positive na siya. Para, if you're going to add those numbers, so, magiging 0 pa din. So, it still follows this rule. For the multiplication, of course, the multiplicative inverse, since ang opposite ng multiplication is division, so, let's just multiply the reciprocal of the number. So, m times the reciprocal of the number, 1 over m is just equal to 1. The same true with a times the reciprocal of its number, so 1 over a is just equal to 1. So, para ganun lang yung additive and multiplicative inverse. So, we also have properties of equality. So, tatlo lang to. The first is for addition. So, if a is equals to b, therefore, kapag mag-add tayo on both sides with a number, still the result is equal. Take a look with this. 4 is equals to 4. Nagdagdag tayo ng 3 on both sides. So still, the result is equal on both sides. 7 is just equal to 7. Ito yung addition property of equality. For the second part, if a is equals to b, then if ever we are going to multiply on both sides, as long as same sila, kaya what if on the other side nag-multiply ka og 2, then on the other side nag-multiply ka og 4, of course it will not follow this rule. You should multiply the same number for both sides. Kasi if you do this, you will follow the multiplicative property of equality, since it will not affect the entire equation. Kasi for example, if you have 9, if you multiply it by 3 on both sides, still the result is equal to each other. So, you have 27, which is equal to 27. So, ganun lang. Next, we have the properties of 0. So, we have here the statement 1. Any number added to 0, of course, the answer is the number from the identity property of addition. Then next, we have any number multiplied by 0. The answer is 0. So, this came from the multiplicative identity property. So 4 times 0 is of course 0. Then we also have 0 divided by any number. The answer is 0. So 0 divided by 4 is equals to 0. So where this identity or property came from? So it still came from the multiplicative identity property, because we can rewrite this into 1/4 times 0. So again, from statement 2, any number multiplied by 0, the answer is 0. So next, we have any number divided by 0, the answer is undefined or infinity. So ito yung sinasabi ko kanina. 4 divided by 0, the answer is, in other books, it is undefined. In others, it is infinity, meaning we don't know. It is an arbitrary statement or an arbitrary thing. So parang ganun yung properties of 0 for statement 4. And then, we also have the last one, the zero factor property. So this is applicable if you are going to find the roots of a quadratic equation. Diba? In a quadratic equation, you have an expression, example, x plus 2 times x plus 4. So one of them or one of the terms must be 0 in order to para ma-conform ni siya nga condition. So if a times b is equals to 0, so one of them should be 0. A may be 0 or b may be 0 or maybe both para ma-accomplish ni siya nga a times b is equals to 0. So this is called the zero factor property. So example ani katong quadratic equation ang pag-find sa root. Then next, we have properties and operation of fractions. So first, we have equivalent fractions. For the equivalent fractions, example 3/4, if we're going to find an equivalent fraction, so meaning they are just equal, only the form ang nag-change. Yung mukha lang yung nagbabago. Pero yung kaloob-looban hindi nagbabago. So parang ganito yun. So for this example, 3/4, so let's say I multiplied the numerator and the denominator by 2. So 3 times 2 equals 6. Then 4 times 2 equals 8. Hala, nagbabago na siya. But overall, yung 3/4 pala at saka 6/8 are just equal. So they are equivalent fractions. Another example, 1/3. If I am going to multiply both numbers by 4 on the numerator and the denominator, so we come up a new fraction, which is still equivalent to 1/3, which is equal to 4/12. So ganun lang yung ng equivalent fractions. So for algebraic expression examples, for example, we are given 3x cubed over 4y. So we're going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by x. So we have an answer of 3x to the 4th all over 4xy. So this expression right here, the new expression, is still the same with this previous or original nga expression nga 3x cubed over 4y. So these are equivalent. So these are examples of equivalent fractions. So ito. The next, we have rules of signs. So to summarize this, for example, if you have a negative sign on the denominator, either numerator or the denominator, the resulting fraction would still be negative. However, if dalawa na yung negative sa numerator at saka sa denominator, of course, follow the operation. If you have -1 on the numerator and -1 of the denominator, it would be cancelled out. Therefore, the resulting fraction will now be positive. Unlike those on this previous part, like only one is negative, so therefore the whole fraction will now be negative. Example, we have negative 3x cubed over 4y. So you can put the negative on the denominator, so it's up to you, because overall the resulting fraction would be negative. Negative pa rin to. Pwede mo ilagay sa numerator, pwede mo siya ilagay sa denominator, or pwede mo siya ilagay in between. So ganun lang pag-represent ng rules of signs. Then if you're going to add or subtract like denominators, for example, in this case we have b, so they are common on both fractions. So just simply write b and then add the numerators, a plus c. So parang ganun lang. Example, we have negative 3x cubed over 4y plus 2x over 4y. So since they have the same denominator, so just write 4y and then add directly negative 3x cubed plus 2y. So you can still, if there is a reason to simplify this, so you can simplify this further. So for the purpose of this example, so let's just remain this one as it is. So ito lang. So actually simple lang class kapag mag-add ng fractions that has the same or similar ang ilaha denominators. But how about kung unlike na? So magkaiba na. So paano to? So ganito 'yan. If they have different denominators, so you just multiply their denominators, so b times d, and then in getting the first term, so ganito, follow me class. So your new denominator b times d, you will going to divide it on the denominator of the first term. So b times d divided by b is d, and then you are going to multiply it on the numerator in order to get the first term, which is equal to ad. The same thing with the second term. So this new denominator b times d divided by d, and then you're going to multiply it to c. So you now have c times b. So in general, you have a times d plus c times b over bd. So ganito lang pag-operate or pag-add or subtract ng algebraic expression that has different denominators or dissimilar denominators. So let's have an example. How about if we have negative 3x cubed over 4y plus 2x all over 2z? So since they have different denominators, so we need to find the product of their denominators. So we have 4y times 2z, this is equal to 8yz. And then, in order to get this first term right here, kanin siya, ito po. So let's just divide this new denominator, 8yz, to the first denominator. So 8yz divided by 4y is 2z. Then multiplied it to the numerator of the first term. So negative 3x squared times 2z. And then for the second term, so still, follow me, 8yz divided by the second denominator, which is 2z. The answer is 4y. And then multiply it to the numerator, which is 2x. So we have 2x times 4y. So ganito lang. If there is a reason na or there is a possibility that this expression can be further simplified, so you can do it. But for the purpose of example, remain lang ta nga ingani. So ganito lang. Then next, multiply fractions. Okay. Do you have any question? Yep, because I think you've noticed a pattern, but actually ang term na cross multiply is applicable ra siya sa mga equations in which the other side of the equation is a fraction and then the other side is a fraction. So you can cross multiply because in this in this example, it's just an expression. So hindi to siya equation. So we're just going to add or subtract two fractions that has dissimilar denominators. But I think, yeah, in my case also, I've noticed that there is a pattern. It's like you just cross multiply this in order to get the first term and then cross multiply this in order to get the second term. But actually, I explained the root. Why is that so? So, bakit ganun yun? Bakit ganun yung pattern? Parang kino-cross multiply mo lang in order to get the first and second term. So, yun. Parang i-multiply mo muna yung denominators, BD, and then yung BD, i-divide mo pabalik dun sa first term or first denominator ng first term, and then you're going to multiply it on the numerator. So, parang lengthy siya, but that is the fundamental or basic kung bakit nakuha mo yung pattern na pwede lang pala i-shortcut na i-cross multiply mo lang para makuha mo yung first term at saka yung second term. So, is it clear na? Okay. So, shall we continue? How about the others? Okay pa ta? Okay pa mo? Nakasunod ra? Okay. So, happy na jud. It's already 7:24. Ano question? Okay, I think wala. Okay, sige. So, let's continue. Okay. So, for multiplying fractions, it is easier since you will just multiply directly the numerators. So, a times c equals ac. Then, multiply the denominator directly. B times d equals bd. So, very simple for this rule, the multiplying of fractions. Then, of course, we have an example, x cubed over 4y times 2x over 2z. So multiply x cubed times 2x, so we have 2x to the fourth. Since we apply the rule of exponents for variables, so since we have variable x, they have the same base, so you just have to add their exponents. So 3 plus 1 equals 4. So that's why we have 2x to the fourth. Then for the denominator, multiply 4y times 2z. So multiply their coefficients. 4 times 2 equals 8. And then multiply their variables. So we have yz. So this is now the answer. But you can further simplify this one because I think there is a common factor for 2 and 8. So 8 can be written into 4 times 2. So maka-cancel yung 2's. So we can now have a simplified answer which is equal to x to the fourth all over 4yz. So ganon. Always gid class ha, don't forget to simplify your algebraic expression. Take note. Next, division of fraction. Of course, in dividing fraction, this is the key points that you should remember. In dividing fractions, please always go to the divisor, your divisor. So because in dividing numbers, you have two parts. You have the dividend and the divisor. This one right here, the first part is the dividend, and then the second part is the divisor. So just take note with your divisor, because your divisor, you need to reciprocal this one. Take the reciprocal of your divisor and then proceed to multiplication. So this is the rule on dividing fractions. So take the reciprocal of CD, C over D. So you have D over C. And then proceed to multiplication. So multiply numerator, AD, and then multiply the denominator, BC. So you have AD over BC. So ganun lang pag-divide ng fraction. So take note. And then simplify if there is a reason to simplify. Example, you have x cubed over 4y divided by 2x over 3c. So x cubed and 4y is our dividend, and our divisor is 2x over 3z. So take note, let's mind sa divisor good. So in order to do this, take the reciprocal of the divisor. So its reciprocal is this one, 3z over 2x, and then proceed to multiplication. So let's multiply, guys. 3z times x cubed equals 3x cubed z. Then 4y times 2x is equals to 8xy. So then simplify this one. So have you noticed that when I multiply this, I follow the alphabetic arrangement. So it's up to you. But for me, please follow alphabetic arrangement na lang. Whichever comes first, then yun yung parang unahin mo na isulat. Kasi pag 3z x cubed, medyo siya, parang hindi siya, uncommon siya. So follow standards na lang. So follow alphabetical arrangement. So ganun. So let's have an example. How about if you're given x squared over 2y? So ito, x squared over 2y plus 8y over 16x. So first things first. So these are two fractions. Hala, two fractions to. So paano to? Okay, next is you look at its denominator. Of course, kapag same lang to, okay, hanep yung buhay mo. Kasi you just add their numerators. But, OMG, 2y2, tsaka yung isa, 16x. So it would be very difficult. So what are you going to do? So apply rule number 5 for the similar fractions. So let's find its LCD. Diba, as what I've told you, yung LCD niya is just the product of their denominators. So 2y times 16x is equals to 2y times 16x. So ito lang. Then in order to get the first term, so as what I have told, then meron ding nag-question. So you can have the shortcut, yung pag-cross multiply in order to get the terms. So the lengthy part, or the ang pinaka long method is 2y times 16x divided by 2y. So we have 16x. Then 16x multiply the numerator of the first fraction. So we arrive this first term, x squared times 16x. On the second term, balik ta sa LCD. Let's go back to the LCD, which is 2y times 16x. Then we're going to divide it with the denominator on the second fraction, which is 16x. Yung maiwan is 2y. then 2y multiplied to the numerator of the second fraction, which is 8y. So we have this second term as 8y times 2y. Then we perform the operation. So x squared times 16x, rules of exponent. So 16 times x cubed. Since ma-add yung ano kasi the same sila ng base x. Then for this second term, 8y times 2y, so we have 16y squared. Since follow rule of exponent. And then as you have noticed, both terms, the first term and second term, have a common. Obvious jud kayo, guys. Obvious kay class, 16. So we need to factor out this one because as what I have told you, it is very best good. Nga, you need to simplify algebraic expression. So we have 16 times x cubed plus y cubed. And then as you have noticed, we apply the reverse of the distributive property because here we extract. So that's why ani, if we're going to go back, so we apply the distributive property of algebra. So yan na. So this is just the reverse. So after we factor out 16, so I think you have noticed that the numerator 16 and the denominator 32 have both common factors. So meron silang common factors. So what are these? So ang 32 pala, pwede pala siyang maisulat into 2 times 16. So therefore, in the numerator, we have 16. Meron din tayo sa denominator nga 16. So we can cancel out this one. Therefore, yung maiiwan na lang is yung x cubed plus y squared all over 2xy. So this is now the simplified form of our algebraic expression. So out from this, which is comprised of two terms, so this is a binomial, our resulting expression is already a monomial. So nagiging monomial na siya since we simplify this. So any question? Meron kayong question, class? About this example? Okay ra? Clear? How about the others? Okay. So, okay. Asazara, I think I heard something. Ah, 2y over 2y, then and then I think yeah, same pa rin, same. As long as you arrive the same answer with this one, so it's still accepted or kanang correct gihapon. And I think you follow those multiplicative identity. So nag-multiply ka og 2y and 2y, then 16x and 16x. So I think we have the same kanang method in a sense that you apply the multiplicative identity property of algebra. So katong okay, so nag-multiply ra kag simply a value of 1 kasi yung 2y over 2y is simply equal to 1. So any other question? So always note na always simplify algebraic expression. So I really highlight this expression. So kanya siya nga phrase. Always simplify algebraic expression. So yun lang talaga, class. Simplify mo lang talaga. So I think that's the end na. So nakumanadjud yung lesson 1 to 3. So nabo mo yung mga question? Class? Do you have any question? Task. Okay. Sige. Asa to? Particular? Like the assessments or the examples? Siguro because it was not stated by the author because I am not the author of the module, but for me, sa ako lang, sa ato na section, I encourage you to simplify your answer. Oo. Ha? Ah, so for those, okay. So for those that encounter some data issues, so maybe nahurot nila data because so rigid kayo ingana dyan ang math since we need to finish module 1 in this meeting. So pasensya na gid. So I think there are some of your classmates experience nga nag-loss sila data. So it's okay because I will naka-record mo rin siya. So I use a software nga naka-record ni siya. Then I will post it on my kanang YouTube channel. So you can watch the replay ni ini. And I think this method is very important, especially class on the higher part. So sa module 1 na to, medyo okay pa lahat. Like in other sections, yung iba hindi pa nag-attend. So okay lang. Kasi real numbers pa lang to eh. So let's meet on the higher, especially on in trigonometric identities. So medyo dami na mga challenge doon. Of course, I will also give you some challenging questions kasi hindi rin pwede easy lang all the time. Dapat you also need to answer mga challenging na mga questions. So that in order for you to improve yourself, in order to do and study more. So nga na. Okay ra? Actually, in my time, nga na dyan mo training. I think siguro karon kuan na siguro karon non-strict or midway strict to non-strict inequality. Bitaw actually it's important po but it depends upon how you are going to mold your students. Ako man good, ako jud i-mold ninyo is dapat you should learn. Marag na it's not about that you will need to kanang kuan ba like you will do everything in order to pass. For example, sa akong classmates, nag-cheat na lang para makapass. So, it's not like that, class. Please, even if you failed, because I have a friend pod that I always appreciate him. Kay sa iyang kasinsiro ba? Although, some said na, depende mo na diskarte, kana hinay nang gugag diskarte. But for me, yun, importante bigyan because if ever you will be, someday you'll be on a firm, then you forget those ideas since you are just relying on the you're just relying sa pagpanundog. So, wala. Luoy kay ka. So, ikaw makaluluoy. So, that's why I am encouraging you to study good. Study. Prove yourself that you are worthy with this subject in this course. You're worthy to receive those engineer on your first part of your name. So, ana. Okay ra? Okay. Okay, Mr. Molig. Okay. Yes, Najee. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I will accept, I will consider, especially kanang wala pa ako answer sa uban, nag-start pa lang ko. So if I've noticed that there are some like hanging questions or like lacking or very disturbing or na mga errors, syntax errors, so I will consider it na lang. So maybe next time I will recode. Murag ako siya encode ba separate na ako encode ko ulit para ma-clarify na ang mga parts nga na ay mga mistakes kay kuan po na sa inyo hapod like makalibog pod na because in my time pod our instructor pod in other subjects during my college days, yes, they really employ that kind of technique nga na ay mga errors gamay for you to dig deeper jud ba na hala basig pataka-taka ra pug ka like ibutangan ni sir nimo error na di ay nya hala pa answer ko na ka kay na dyan siya solution tungod di ini tapos inyo nimo sir huy dong anay solution because I put something there that makes the entire problem nga ma-error siya that cannot be answered. So lugi na ka so nga na. So for that one, please use your instinct, use your critical thinking para ni ana. If you find it error, so sir error man ni di yun ma-answeran kay ambot libog ni siya. So remain as it is. So jump to the next question because I will consider it. I will accept it that okay, yeah, you don't have any answer for this one because of course it is obvious na kuwang siya, lacking siya og mga given. So yan na siya. So do you have any question? Okay, you're welcome. How about the others? Okay ra? Okay, Miss Jamora. Oh, Hamora di. Jamora. Okay, Hamora. Yes. Yes. Actually, mag-set pa ko. So, just kanang wait na lang sa akong announcements for your deadline. Since online learners man mo, so medyo basin ko an kay nag-change ba meron work from home na pod me. So, mag-start na may og kuan ganito na lang ko sa boarding house. Since karon medyo ako na lang dali sa office kay this is my last subject, 7:40 na. Saying ani, I will just kuan na lang uh, post na lang an announcement regarding sa deadline of your assessments. So don't worry class. Maybe the deadline may be Friday or um, Thursday. So I will give you ample time para dili mo maglisod. Okay, you're welcome. So how about the others? Wala na? Wala na question? Siguro gipanggutom na siguro mo no. Gutom na? Makagutom ang mat? Gutom. Okay, sige. So, okay. Tumalan din. Oy, kay... Ulit na. Oy, kay baba mo nga. Kung gutom daw ka, kung gutom, bitaw, kung gutomon ka, nindot ka na answer. May enhance yun ba? Joke, bitaw. Kaog number. Malagi, may na, bitaw. Sige, so if you don't have any questions, so 16 yun no? Bagtay kining 16. So 16. Out of, based sa akong record, you are 21. So, it's okay. Na 16. At least na participate. So, you can also encourage those offline learners to participate in our meeting because it is not only kanang limited sa mga kuan sa mga online. So, siguro sige na kay una na sir, gutom na. Okay, sorry. Sorry nga na medyo nataas. But yes, we're very successful sa ato module 1. So, if you don't have any questions, so you may now leave the meeting. So, thank you guys. Thank you sa pag-listen. Okay, thank you. You're welcome.